Now come to order. This meeting is being recorded and will be made available for viewing on the Methuen Public Schools website. I'll ask the secretary to call the roll.
Vice Chair DeZoglio.
Here.
Donovan Grassi here. Baez.
Present.
Keegan.
Present.
McCarthy Saroyce.
Present.
Willett.
Yep.
And Bogart.
Here. All right, everyone is present. We need a motion and a second to accept tonight's agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Motions from the vice chair, seconds from member Keegan. Any discussion? If not, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. Next, we'll stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I'll ask everyone to please remain standing for a moment of silence. Tonight we remember our colleague and Methuen High School building-based educator, Charles Jackson. Charles dedicated almost 5 years to the Methuen Public Schools, supporting our students and helping create a safe, welcoming Ranger community. He also coached volleyball through the play ball program and was a respected gymnastics coach and mentor to young athletes and fellow coaches. Charles was also a veteran serving in the United States Marine Corps for 8 years. Please join us in a moment of silence to honor Charles, his service to our community, our country, and the lasting impact he made on so many lives. Thank you. Next on the agenda, we have public participation. Thank you. We have Kara Blatt.
Better microphone. I just here to speak about the school choice. I am very concerned that this is going up multiple times and we are sitting in August. This is going to greatly affect class sizes. It's also going to affect the ability for teachers to be prepared. Teachers are already starting on their own free time this week, getting into their classrooms and getting ready. The fact that this school committee doesn't have it together to know what we're doing on this issue is very concerning and doesn't mean that you guys have done your homework. This should have been done in May properly with the complete recommendation of the superintendent and how things are going. The CTE program, which will be talked about, has also been very lucrative into the school system, but it is not the school system's responsibility to generate revenue. It is the city, and to be honest, with the taxpayers. So I'm asking you to please reconsider the school choice vote and not do it on a school system. We do not have literacy tutors, math tutors, kindergarten aides, all this stuff of staffing that is not well done for other school systems to be able to do school choice. We don't have it. We do not have the support systems. We do not have the capacity. We have lost 15 teachers this year alone, not to mention last year. We have down enrollment, but we don't have down class sizes. Anything over 20 is not low, that is high. Our class sizes used to be 15 and 14 with kindergarten aides, not 23 that we're projecting. So please, let's be fiscally responsible, but also be responsible to the students and to the parents and the taxpayers, and no school choice for right now. Thank you.
Thank you, Kara. Is there anyone else in the audience who wishes to speak?
Good evening. My name is Ceci Oviedo, and I'm here advocating for my daughter, Alexia Oviedo, a sophomore at Methuen High School. I'm asking the district that when will it begin protecting our most vulnerable children and holding adults accountable? I am not asking you not to hold children accountable. I'm asking you to hold children accountable appropriately. Alexia's IEP gives staff a roadmap. It calls for private, discreet redirection and conversations regarding discipline. consistent routines, breaks to support regulation, and access to her support team. Melissa B. violated all of those IEP requirements. According to what we experienced, when Melissa B. pulled Alexia from class without authorization from her family, violating school policy, she did not notify her supervisor or seek support from Alexia's team. Instead, the interaction escalated. Alexia was yelled at, aggressively confronted, frightened, and made to feel as if she was going to do something wrong. That is not appropriate discipline. Fear is not discipline. Intimidation is not discipline. Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 71, Section 370, recognizes that a school staff member can be a perpetrator of bullying and requires the district to have procedures addressing bullying, including protecting the students and restoring a victim's sense of safety. This incident wasn't one. Heck, it wasn't two. Shoot, it wasn't even 3 times. This happened multiple times during the course of the year, and yet Alexia was not protected. She is in fear of returning to school to once again be confronted and be denied her services in her IEP. So when will Melissa B. be held accountable for repeatedly failing to follow Alexia's IEP and for the way she treated Alexia? When will Alexia feel safe? And when will the district step up and start protecting the victim and not the perpetrator? We're done suffering because the district wants to protect another teacher. And I'm not asking you not to protect teachers. I'm asking you to put first the vulnerable students that they are responsible for taking care of. My second point this evening is to discuss a new policy implemented by Principal Corrett towards April of last year, this spring. He put an outright rule of no outside food. Now, I agree. Takeout, Quiznos, absolutely. But when you have students like my 2 children, one who has AFRID, it is a restrictive food disorder, and a diabetic, and you have Alexia with hypoglycemia and ADHD, which cannot be taken her meds without food. For Aria, if she does not eat, her sugars drop. With this policy, I am not able to bring home-cooked meals for my children. I'm not able to feed them when they are hungry. Because Aria is a diabetic, her meal plans have been carefully constructed over the last 8 years with medical specialists, not only to deal with her PCOS, AFRID, and diabetic standing. So, when Aria went to the cafeteria one day, she had a cold piece of fried chicken. Immediately, her disorder took hold. She refused to step foot in the cafeteria, not even to eat an apple. It took me 6 weeks with her nutritionist to retrain her to trust the school pizza, just a pizza. Aria started resorting to going to the nurse's office and eating a granola bar or a protein bar. That is not sustenance for a diabetic. Her sugars can drop quickly if she doesn't have enough protein, enough fats, enough sugars. She should not depend on rescue food to survive during the course of the day. For Alexia, who struggles with hypoglycemia, her ADHD meds can either make her not hungry at all or so hungry that by 9 a.m. she has eaten all of her food, and by lunchtime she needs me to bring her more. I'm not asking to bring her McDonald's. I'm not asking to bring her Burger King or Chipotle. I'm asking to bring her leftover lasagna or make her a cup of soup. Last May, Alexia had 2 molars removed. She was basically on a liquid diet, and the most she could eat was soup and broth. She called me desperate because she needed to take her ADHD meds, and she was hungry. But because of the school food policy, I was told I was not allowed to bring her soup. Alexia that day did not take her ADHD meds, did not take her pain meds, did not take her antibiotics because she couldn't take it without food, and she couldn't chew any of the options in the cafeteria. I am okay with not allowing students to get takeout, but when the IEP in the 504 states that a child has an eating disorder and there's medical data behind it, you cannot put in place a blanket policy that disregards medical needs and concerns. Alexia missed an entire day of school because she couldn't be in school to take her meds, to be regulated by her ADHD meds, and because she couldn't eat anything in school. These blanket policies are harmful, and I'm asking the school committee to evaluate them, but to allow accommodations for those special needs kids who require food accommodations. I will do my part as a parent. I will follow the guidelines, but it cannot be a zero policy because we have children that need food for sustenance. My last thing is that as the school committee, it is your responsibility to put our kids first. Regardless of what happens, it is our kids that need us to work for them. Our kids deserve a safe, healthy environment where they can grow, learn, and feel joy, because this is the space where they spend the most amount of time, with those adults in those hallways shaping them to be the future adults. Right now, my oldest daughter, an honor student at MHS, 3 honors classes, has not played a sport this year, will not be attending college this summer because of the stress and the trauma. My 16-year-old daughter is refusing to walk into this building. We took her to the hospital because she had a panic attack when she read the superintendent's notice and then Mr. Corrett's notice about school starting next Wednesday the 2nd. Cried, panicked for 3 hours, begging me to keep her home in a place where she used to love. It is this committee's responsibility to protect our children and to show our community that the most vulnerable ones matter. Even the high achievers matter, and that no adult has a right to stand there screaming and yelling at them. Because if I don't yell at my children, no adult has the right to yell at my children. Thank you.
Is there anyone else in the audience who wishes to speak? If not, at this point, I'll close public participation. If you are unable to attend a meeting in person and want to submit public participation, you can email Susan Shanti at snscionti@methuen.k12.ma.us before 3 p.m. on the day of the school committee meeting. Next on the agenda, we have approval of minutes. We'll start with the minutes of May 11, 2026. Do we have a motion and a second to approve?
So moved. Second.
Motions from Member Keegan, seconds from Member Soroyce. Any discussion? If not, we'll vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. Next, we have approval of the minutes from May 27, 2026. We need a motion and a second to approve.
So moved. Second.
Motions from Member Keegan, seconds from Member Soroyce. Any discussion? Seeing none, we'll vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. Next on the agenda, we have the minutes of June 11, 2026 up for approval. We need a motion and a second to approve.
So moved. Second.
Motions from Member Keegan, seconds from Member Soroyce. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. Next, we have the special meeting minutes of June 8, 2026. We need a motion and a second to approve.
So moved.
Motions from the Vice Chair, seconds from Member Keegan. Any discussion? Not, we'll vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. Lastly, for minutes, we have the special meeting minutes of June 18, 2026. We have a motion and a second to approve.
Second.
Motions from the Vice Chair, seconds from Member Keegan. Any discussion? Not, we'll vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. Next on the agenda, we have staff reports. We'll start with the superintendent. I believe it's the, we're going to talk about the new superintendent induction program.
Yes, thank you. I'd like to welcome Cindy Taymor this evening. She's serving as my coach and mentor as part of MASS, the new superintendent induction program. This is a cohort of individuals, interim and otherwise throughout the state, who are benefiting from the guidance of our experienced coaches, and throughout the year having several convenings where we're able to share best leadership practices. And Cindy's here this evening to provide an overview of the program. Welcome, Cindy.
Thank you. Does
Thank you, and thank you for having me, and more importantly, thank you for supporting Lisa in this effort. As she said, I'm Cindy Tamor. I'm a retired superintendent. I was the superintendent in Melrose. Prior to that, I was the assistant superintendent in Bedford. I was a special ed director in Bedford. I was an assistant sped director in Malden. And if we want to go all the way back, I started in a classroom like many superintendents do. This is the 17th cohort for NISSUP. It's the new Superintendent's Induction Program. It's a joint effort between the Mass Association of School Superintendents and DESE. And the goal of the program is, this is a very difficult job, and somebody new to the position should have support of experienced people. At this point in time, I don't think there is any superintendent in the state, other than maybe the big cities like Boston, but even Mary, I think, went through the program, who have not been in this program. This year's cohort is 32 new superintendents. That gives you an inkling of what the turnover is. So it's been very active. As part of the program, there is a very set curriculum. It's been developed over many years. It was originally guided and still is influenced by Rachel Curtis and Liz City from Harvard School of Education. If you have not seen their book, Leading Strategically, it's one of our guides, so to speak. Over the course of the year, Lisa will attend 6 full in-person sessions and 5 remote sessions for a total of 66 hours of content. The in-person sessions typically run from 8:30 to 2:30. They are held in Marlborough because, as you all know, DESE believes that's the center of the state. And the remote sessions are just as they are remote. The purpose of it is to talk about what skills does a superintendent need to be a strong instructional leader. While we do put our toe into things like budget, negotiations, MSAB applications, our main focus is on the students. What do you need to do as a superintendent to improve the outcomes of the students in your district? So that really is the meat of the program. The first-year people, like Lisa, are asked to do an entry plan. In her case, it's a transition plan, as she's moving from interim to acting, or acting to interim, and it's only a 1-year appointment. So it's a little bit different for her, and we work to adapt that. In that entry plan, as she will present tonight, her job is to listen to the people of Methuen, to talk to the staff, the families, the municipal side, and gain insight into where people think the district is doing well and where they think it may need to make some adjustments. She will also be responsible for reviewing a host of data. Again, her report will go into more detail with this. On top of it all, I meet with Lisa 6 hours a month. I come out here, I attend leadership meetings, I tour the buildings, I go into classrooms with her, and we also meet virtually. Just for your, because I know somebody will ask, I live in Salem, Mass, so I have to do the 128-93 route, which is, as you all know, is unpredictable. But I am thrilled to be here and to learn much more about Methuen. So with that, any questions, I'm very happy to answer them.
Thank you very much for joining us. Any questions or thoughts from the committee, Vice Chair?
One, thank you for your time. 1:14 might be faster, but you know,
I think you
just
may be right.
just throwing that out there. No, we appreciate your time, and again, we respect the superintendent's cohort, kind of the support that you can provide, and so whatever you need from us in the passing, I think we will openly be here for your disposal for the superintendent. So appreciate.
Thank you. I look forward to meeting with some of you on a more frequent basis. Again, I will tell you, my end with her is confidential, but I'm always willing to hear from you what you think Methuen is looking for as you move forward.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Sounds good.
Now I'm going to watch your plan.
Thank you. Superintendent, it's all yours.
Okay, thank you, and thank you, Cindy. Her support's been invaluable already. So you'll see in your packet, and linked online as well, is the transition plan as we're moving into a new school year. And certainly, although we've been through a period of extended transition, we don't have the luxury of treading water without gathering information with some meaningful steps forward. So I begin with the letter to the community, just outlining the various roles that I've held in Methuen Public Schools, starting as a long-term substitute teacher, who was supposed to be covering a maternity leave for 3 months, and now heading into my 22nd year. And as part of the plan, as Cindy alluded to, I'll be soliciting feedback, opinions, but truly genuinely listening and making sure that I have a good understanding of all the different perspectives in the district, and examining data at a level where I'm truly disaggregating and finding root causes for where I think we could be moving forward. So certainly I have a strong understanding of all the facets of how things work, but I do need to go a step deeper in order to help lead the team to meaningful steps forward. So I've included in the plan as some guiding pieces here, our vision of the graduate, and also some of the ways that we frame our theories of action. So for the transition plan, it's broken down into 3 steps. In step 1, it's called Building Relationships, Listening and Learning. We've already launched this step of the plan and have been enjoying doing so. So you may have seen us out at the neighbors' night out for the block parties. We're certainly excited to host our community event on Thursday as part of our Leadership Academy. But we're interested in being out in the community and also learning. So I've held several individual meetings with school committee members already, and I will continue to do so. I look forward to meeting individually with the MEA president and the presidents of our collective bargaining units, multiple student leaders, members of our district leadership team, members of our other leadership teams beyond central office in the schools, participating in learning walks, examining school improvement plans, studying trends, and reviewing safety plans. I think you might be missing a page in your packet here, but it's linked online, certainly. All to say that I'm interested in delving more deeply into what's available to us. So the questions I'll be asking are similar to all the different groups of people who I'll be meeting with. I've been taking copious notes, synthesizing, and I'll say that the one-to-one meetings that I've had thus far have yielded some very interesting results and trends, and more importantly, have already sparked some new ideas and some directions for how we're making quick pivots in real time. And so this process, while we're moving through the fall, all the way through December, where I plan to visit every classroom space and learning space in the district, acquiring all this understanding, will eventually come out in a comprehensive findings report, which will be lengthy and will be shared with you as to what I've discovered through this whole process. And so I hope through using a means of focus groups, one-on-one interviews, also opening my door to families, staff, and students who feel inclined to come share a little extra, that I'll be able to provide you with some meaningful information. And all this information is only as good as what we do with it. I remember a few years ago discussing how we're going to gather data and how we're going to look at it. And there was a wise mentor in the group who said that really what matters when you're examining data is the discussion surrounding it and what you're going to do with it. And so certainly that's the plan for the comprehensive support, report that I'll provide you. I hope to pinpoint some very clear, actionable steps to address areas of growth, but also highlight some things that I think we're doing well. So I look forward to doing this. I think it's going to be enjoyable, enlightening, and certainly will share the work and the results with the leadership team who's been accepting of these community outreach plans that we've been doing with open arms. And I'm very grateful that all the crazy ideas we've been throwing out, there's been at least a few people in the room who said, yeah, let's do it. And so willing to take some chances and make some change, but just wanting to make you all aware that I'll be out and about listening very carefully in the coming months. If there's any questions, I'm happy to take them from you. If you remember, when I became acting in the spring, I did something similar with what I plan to do for the remainder of time until the close of the school year, and so this is moving into the school year.
Thank you. Member Bias.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, through you. I just want to, first and foremost, thank you for putting this together. Despite whatever level of uncertainty there is in your position, the level of enthusiasm you have in what, like you just said, not just treading water, but moving forward, is exceptional, and I thank you for that. And to that point, you state here that you plan to bring us a comprehensive report in January, February, and visit all the classrooms in the district, or at most, I think that's awesome, and I just want to make sure that that's not too ambitious, and that it can be done. And again, it's incredible that you've taken this up with such passion.
Thank you. No, I believe it can be absolutely done, and I'm trying to design my days and use my time really wisely. So I've already started establishing some calendars of meetings, standings, appointments, and also arranging myself so I'm in the schools and viewing and observing our students, which is the whole reason why we're here. And I think that'll also be beneficial in understanding where concerns or celebrations may arise and be able to speak to those myself instead of just relying on information that's reported up to me.
Thank you.
Member Willett.
I think this is more towards us collectively as a school committee. I've been a strong advocate for a second round of the cultural survey, and I think that should be done in conjunction with the final report from the superintendent, the comprehensive findings in January, February. I think we should survey the universe again of parents and employees and potentially students on how they feel personally about the metrics and how we can measure from the initial standpoint if we detect any improvements in a host of areas. So that'd be something that I would be advocating for as a committee as we go forward. And secondly, it might be something that we might need the support of the city council. Excuse me, I'm still in favor of a full forensic audit of the school department. So that's something that the school committee might not be able to fund itself, but the city council could fund a forensic audit. So that should go out to bid too. So those two factors in terms of openness and transparency, and I do applaud the superintendent for everything she's doing so far in the outreach to our constituency. Thank you.
Member Donovan.
So I'd like to say that one of the highlights of our neighborhood's National Night Out was seeing a white van pull up and all these administrators spill out. And actually, some of our parents went back and their kids had already gone to bed. And some parents went back to wake up the children and bring them. And it was like a first for our neighborhood. And I appreciated that very much. It was even for people who didn't have children in the schools, it was nice to make a connection. And I hope to see more of things like that happening. it gives a better understanding of who we are and what we do. That said, just a couple of quick questions. Do you have any areas that you're already thinking about for district-wide surveys? You mentioned the district-wide surveys. Is there any area that you're already honing in on, saying, I really want to dig deeper into this?
Prior to the survey that went out with the audit, we had sent a survey of our own to gauge culture and climate of school buildings, and sense of belonging, and satisfaction among staff and students, which aligns nicely with Objective 3 of our strategy plan. I think that it might be beneficial to go with the survey, that same survey again. So I'm curious about that. But I'm also curious about hearing more from our students, because they're the ones that are having the lived experience every day. And what we're truly hoping to do is to make sure that our students have the means and the skills and motivation, support, confidence to accomplish what they do set out to do, and understand how to be resourceful and navigate the different systems in order to do that. So we've talked a lot about opportunity. Are students aware of the pathways that are available to them? We talk a lot about outcomes. But I'd like to hear from the students what's most engaging for them and where do they feel like they're lacking. I think what's been really beneficial for us is hearing the students in their presentations of their civics projects or their YPAR projects. And they're bringing up concerns that we also all have and have been trying to find solutions for. And sometimes they have the most creative solutions. So I think at this point, and that will probably evolve as I talk to more people, the idea of where I'd like to go with that. Culture and climate, certainly, but I'm looking at it more of an opportunity for growth and adjustment than a rating of where we stand. I'm looking for pathways forward, and also to make sure that we're equipping students with what they also feel they need to be equipped with. We do a lot of talking about kids and what they need, when truly the people that have the answers are the students who are sitting right in front of us a lot of times.
You also refer to student advisory councils in the upper school and high school. Is there anything in existence right now that kind of fits that bill?
This idea came out of our policy subcommittee, in that it's not a novel idea at all, but something that we should have. And I had been talking about wanting to have a superintendent senate of students to weigh in on ideas. So what we currently have is student council at the upper school and high school, members who are elected by their peers. And then we've had a student of the student council serving on school committee with you all. And if you remember, we do have students who come and provide updates periodically. What we should have, in addition to that student council with elected officials, which you may be familiar with, president, vice president, and whatnot, at both the upper and high school, is that we should have this other body of elected, students elected by their peers, who I would meet with regularly to get their ideas, who our building leaders and other district leaders could meet with regularly. And from this group, they elect someone to sit in the seat and participate on school committee. So that's the way it's meant to work. My coach Cindy has recommended too that some other districts do is they take that group of 5 and have them serve on a rotating basis, since students have demanding schedules, but they would be responsible for reviewing the packet, providing valuable input. So we would use that structure to find our representative, but also as a means for us gauging information beyond what's happening event-wise, which is still valuable, but some of those hot button issues that we've been debating about, they would be able to weigh in on and have the opportunity to go back to their peers and gather more information to inform us in our decision making.
And lastly, how are you going to share this information with the staff?
So the same way, and that it'll be available to them in full report, but also through an abridged version of slides and a summary of what I found. I certainly want all stakeholders to see the results of the finding report and that know that their contributions went somewhere. And I'm finding some interesting trends, which I think that I've alluded to. I've really enjoyed the meetings I've had one-on-one so far. Some of those ideas have stuck in my mind, and I'm able to synthesize what other stakeholders are saying to piece together too. But I'm interested to hear more from the staff when they return from summer break. I'll be in schools just to be available for stop-ins at various times for listening sessions. Should they feel that that's the appropriate venue to do so. I'm also going to book some time on my calendar to hold for people that want to Calendly appointment themselves in to come in just to say hi or to share an idea or thought.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Member Byers?
Thank you. That conversation just sparked something for me to say, and that is something that you said struck with me, and that is root cause. So when we talk about the surveys and audits and all that, something that was said in the audit that was done before is that it wasn't a root cause audit or survey. And I think that it's important as you go through this work to not just identify the trends, but like you said, identify the root cause so that then we can create a solution. Because just knowing the trends and these surveys that have been done in the past isn't enough to move forward. It's really root cause, and that is struck with me because what we talked about this summer in this budget season is structural reform, for example, as a thing. And calendar year 26, fiscal year 27, I think we made significant progress in structural reforms. So now I think that as you do this work, the root causes that you're looking for and identifying are really important in terms of surveys and identifying, getting feedback. Thank you.
Vice Chair?
Thank you. One, I really like the idea about the student focus groups, especially establishing, that advisory council. Kind of reminds me of like student government association and like in a college, almost. I do think though, is it ambitious to think that we can get 4 schools plus the high school 5 to have like a student senate in the first year? Do we see that being something that, gauge interest in maybe in a pilot program with one group of students, maybe in a grade? I just think a 5th grader coming in is not going to have an idea what this is yet.
I'm actually worried about there being too much interest.
Too much interest.
I say that because we started our youth participatory action research clubs, or our YPAR clubs, through grant funding just a couple years ago.
Mm-hmm.
We went with grades 6 through 8 at that point, what would be a traditional middle school
Yeah.
grade level band, and also high school. And we have an abundance of response to that. I think students are looking for opportunities to have their voices be heard in unique ways. So sometimes we hear the same voices over and over, and we're so happy to hear them, but it's the same students who might be provided with particular opportunity.
Yeah.
And by providing additional seats, I think we're helping to hear more perspectives. What I'm thinking about, like logistically, is with the middle schoolers or upper school students, how it might be difficult to have them all gather in one place for a district-wide effort. But certainly, I think we could, without a doubt, come up with school teams.
Okay. The other thing, I have to say, this year, I have seen so much outreach compared to previous years. And especially in my tenure with the city, this is probably the most I've seen in over, maybe 4 or 5. The back to school, getting the leadership together for night out, that was amazing. I'm not sure if you do the kindergarten kickoff every year. I happened to just stumble upon it this year. That was amazing this morning. And then this back to school rally that all the schools are having. I know you're doing a main one, but I know some of the schools are doing their own. I don't recall that ever happening. So is this the first annual? Am I not recalling this in the last few years? Like, I'm sorry, is this the first time we're doing this?
The kindergarten kickoff has been standing, and the Nevins is kind enough to sponsor that in collaboration with us and host. So that's been a nice traditional event. We also do the playground play dates for the incoming kindergarten students. That's been standing as well. The event we're having on Thursday is new. Typically, it's our second day of our Leadership Academy when we have approximately 50 leaders here. We usually do a team building activity, which is beneficial as well, but we often talk about how we plan to engage in the community. And so the thought there was, why not make the team building an actual engagement in the community with just the idea of having fun, getting to know each other, a meet and greet. My original thought was that it doesn't need to necessarily be a resource fair like we do so often. However, community groups have reached out asking if they're able to participate. And so I said, sure. So it's become that, which we're excited about too. But some of the leaders, when we were pitching the idea, so why don't we just make use of the resources available to us and open the ice rink? And the rec department's kind enough to share their yard games with us. We're going to have the police is bringing their ice cream truck with the SROs. So it's kind of nice and enjoyable for everybody, I think. So that's new. But we're trying to make our standing events known and also look for opportunities to engage and foster sense of trust and two-way communication with families as the year goes on.
The last thing I would be amiss to say, I mean, it 100% turnaround when I see last year to this year with communication to the community. I'm just saying, it's been a complete 180. So kudos to the team. Involvement in the community, huge piece. Now we need to see the result in the classroom. And that's the big piece here. So I'm looking forward to seeing the data throughout the year. And I know the elementary and grammar schools are trimesters, and the high school is regular 4 quarters. Do we have, because again, I joined toward the tail end and we came into a whirlwind. Do we have almost like a quarterly review or a trimester review booked like a month after the final marking closes so that it's presented to us? I know we got to end of the year, but for the elementary schools, do we get a quarterly review?
Yes, I actually sent that schedule out this morning to the leadership team, central office,
Okay.
slating the dates of the workshops when we be providing the quarterly updates. I also booked in there some updates from Nancy Lopez, our technology director. I believe that had been an ask, and also updates on constellations and the progress of how that's going during our workshops as well. So absolutely. Before we get into the first quarterly, we'll be sharing, or Ms. Parady will be sharing our advanced placement data, which was released this summer. Our accountability data will be out in late September. We got some more details on our access testing results just today. So there'll be some information to share before we get into the quarterlies, but certainly quarterlies will also incorporate our benchmark data, walkthrough data, things that we're noticing as a result of our observations with our consulting partners through various grants, et cetera.
The one thing I would ask, and this will be the last thing I say on this, is if we could get benchmark data from the start, from if we can get in the first month, what some of the benchmarks are that we're currently stag at right now, so that we can, over time, when we get the quarterly review, we can see the progression from what we were told at the beginning to the quarterly review. Does that make sense?
Yes. So for our benchmarks, we give beginning, middle, and end of the year assessments. And we report on those different time periods so you can see the tracking of it. Absolutely.
Do we have any idea of what we're getting into starting at the beginning of the year? Like, is there a
So we have assessment windows where teachers are to give that beginning of the year assessment, which is communicated through our assessment calendar and our administrative team. And so, of course, the first few days of school, we're excited to build relationships, start to build routines in classrooms, get to know students. But we do like to get that information soon so that we know truly what our baseline is for the start of the school year. And that will be provided to you, certainly.
So maybe that's the word I'm looking for, is the assessment values that we get from the
Yes.
beginning. All right, perfect. Thank you. All set.
Member Keegan?
Thank you. I love this. I think this is fantastic. Couple things that have sparked thoughts in me as this conversation has happened. You were saying how you were booking things throughout the year. This has been a passion of Member Donovan's to get a roadmap of school committee meetings and to have a master calendar of like, we can expect this then and this then and this then. So if you could share that with us, I think you would make her dream come true over the past 2 years.
Okay, well,
This is like
I'm happy to do that.
Literally, she's been talking about this for 2 straight years, that we really need a master calendar of when to expect and like when the budget's gonna come out and how we build a calendar backwards, and the school committee should have a path throughout the
Yes.
year. And it would be fantastic, since you just said you're building it.
Yes.
That it would be great if you could share it with us and maybe even work with Member Donovan to make it better. Or,
Yes, absolutely,
like
yep.
more of what we need.
Yes.
Because that would be really super helpful to us.
Okay, happy to do that. So I've been reviewing the cycles for the last few years to see what were the standing items of business meetings when those specialty items popped up. But then also thinking, is that the best place for those specialty items? Could they be sooner or later? But I'm also doing that in an effort to help the team know when to anticipate having to collect the data and develop a presentation. And also, last year I heard that there is an appetite for hearing more direct information from our building leaders or supervisors, and this will give them ample time to block off that time in their schedule as well. So I'll be happy to share that.
That would
Thank
be
you.
fabulous, thank you. And the other thing that kept popping up is the student council senate thing. During our policy subcommittee, we found out that this is Massachusetts general law, that we have to have it. So this isn't actually a choice, it's something we haven't been doing and we need to do. And so Lisa took it on head on and said, oh, this fits right into what I wanted to do anyway. And so she's making that happen because we are not compliant previously. So I just wanted to mention that. That's all.
Any other comments or questions? I'll just wrap up briefly by sharing some of my thoughts right out of the gate. This has been, to say the least, a tumultuous year for our school district. There's been a lot of uncertainty. We've collectively, I think as a body, asked much of you, Dr. Golubsky, to be both an agent of change, but also to be an agent of institutional stability, to try to, bring some calm to the district as well, which is a lot, right? I'll say right out of the gate, also, not to use that phrase, I find myself using these weird phrases oftentimes when I'm trying to find what I'm looking for in my mind. The filler, I guess. So what I'll say is, long and short of it, is that I'm sensing forward movement. I'm sensing momentum. I'm happy to, of course, facilitate, I know you mentioned wanting to have some meetings with department heads and the like, police, fire, happy to facilitate that. But I think it comes down to something that I've heard here, where we've seen more than at any other time that I can recall, so much communication with people in the community, a lot of efforts at outreach. And I just want to say that I support you, I support your plan, and we're here for you. And just wanted to share that publicly. Next on the agenda, we have social media update.
Thank you. So this update will be quick. We are live on Facebook with the Methuen Public Schools official Facebook presence. It's called Methuen Public Schools. The profile picture is the logo. If you're looking for the correct account, there may be some imposters accounts out there, but it does stipulate that this is the official page, and we also are active on Instagram. And so thank you for sharing those accounts. I noticed that our followers have increased, and in the newsletter that I'll send out to families, I also have those links. I wanted to make sure that we had some content on there before I blasted out an empty page. So we are building and growing. The intent is to use that to communicate important information, events, to highlight some of the successes that we've seen. And we have no shortage of content. I was walking through the Tenney Grammar School last week with Dr. Marks as we were touring the buildings, and came upon a student intern who had taken apart an entire Chromebook and was leaning over it rebuilding a Chromebook. I was like, oh, that's a great story. So we can look forward to that, as well as celebrating some of the capital improvement projects that we've had over the summer, and that way too. So keep an eye out for that, please.
That's great. Any comments, questions about the social media update? Everybody's?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, through you. I just had 3 quick things. The first one is, so you mentioned that there's a lot of, per se, imposter accounts, but also there's a lot of non-affiliated accounts that may not be doing nefarious things. They're just organizational or whatnot. I know that with the consultant, there was a plan to consolidate or to see which ones are necessary or unnecessary. How's that progressing?
That's going to take us just a little bit of time.
Yep.
Because we have some ambitious staff members who are eager to share information about, maybe it's the club or activity, or to support students in doing that. So once we have our staff back, we'll be able to speak with them about the language that should be on their accounts versus ours, for the sake of clarity. And the consultant has been helpful in providing us with examples of how that was done in other districts. Likewise, we do have our AI consultant coming to the district next week, 26th. Time is going fast. And so he'll be helpful with how we're framing our use of AI, and might inform how we're developing policy around that as well. But that's certainly on my mind, so thank you.
Thank you. The second thing is, you mentioned the creation of a Facebook page. Is there any thoughts on other accounts? And I'm mainly thinking about LinkedIn. I know our staff would probably like being able to put Methuen Public Schools as an organization that they work for or worked in. That way we could also track postings and applications and that sort of thing. Is that something that's on your guys' mind?
That might be phase 2.
Okay.
But I would like to get into that as well. I think once we get off the ground with these 2 channels, Instagram and Facebook, because also we haven't gotten deep into navigating. We have structures for it, but we haven't really executed yet how each school building is going to create their templates for celebrations, and how we're going to equitably share those, while also, if it's easy to link to LinkedIn, I'd be happy to do that too. But I'll have to investigate that a bit further, but I like that idea.
Of course. And the last thing is translations, with not per se captions or not, but maybe images or flyers, that sort of, just to keep it in mind for the equity piece as well.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah.
Vice Chair?
Thank you. Do we also have any plans on aligning the PTOs, on making sure they're following a social media policy with our process?
So I've met with 3 out of the 4 PTO presidents so far, and we'll wrap that up soon. But yes, that will be part of the process of what we're doing in terms of what we're posting, how we're posting it, more importantly, who we're posting. That will be some of the information that will be disseminated to them. I've had great meetings with the PTO so far. All PTOs are looking for additional members and eager to get more volunteers. And so I'd like to encourage parents to join as well. But yeah, we look forward to continuing with their enrichment, celebrating them, but also making sure that we're staying within the appropriate lanes.
I just want to make sure everyone's getting the same information, looking at it the same way. All right, thank you.
Any other questions or comments? If not, we'll move on to the back-to-school community event.
Quickly, just a shout out for our back to school community event. That's going to be this coming Thursday from 2 p.m. to 4 p.m. at Methuen High School. We're going to have food trucks. Thank you to the city for sending the list of food trucks to us. We appreciate that. We're going to have some community partners. All of our administrators will be here, so we'll get to see everybody in one place. Central office building, and also activities. So free ice skating and skates, the games, which I referenced. Mr. Corrett this morning was trying to get some face painting going. We have lots of high school student volunteers, so hopefully no shortage of fun. It's our first go with this, and we do have some fun things to hand out as well.
Sounds good. Any comments? If not, we'll move on to the update from the Assistant Superintendent of Teaching and Learning.
All right, so we're going to talk about CTE, which is very exciting. Wonderful opportunities for our students here at Methuen High School. So I created a table of enrollment over the past 4 years and added some anticipated enrollment for this year. In talking to Mrs. Tatro, who's really scheduling all of that, we know that those numbers may fluctuate a little bit as students do return to school. Those are based on the interest from last year. So we really have some great moments to celebrate here, and some trends to really look at. So the three that stuck out the most to me were the early education care in care. You can see a continual increase there in students taking that option and exploring that pathway, as well as marketing. I think there's a lot of reasons for that. Students really have enjoyed that. DECA, there's some other contributing things that happen that I think really have engaged our students. And then radio and TV broadcasting, which is really exciting because that was something we included last year. So I think it's a nice forward trend that we see students really taking this opportunity and really exploring these pathways. One thing that's important to note is that as we added radio and TV broadcasting last year as the 5th pathway, we added in the required exploratory option for 9th grade students, which is a wonderful opportunity for them. So we're continuing that trend. I did speak to Ms. Tatro because that number seems to have gone down, but she indicated it is anticipated in that was based on what students had shown interest for last year, and some of them may not be coming to Methuen High School, so some of those numbers may have shifted a little bit. Still, very awesome opportunity for our students, and we love to give them this opportunity and really help them really look at career pathways and what they might decide to do. So the top half of it is obviously the programs that we offer at Methuen High School. But another important part of this is what we offer in our partnership with GLTS and the After Dark program. So you can see that there's some numbers that are growing there a little bit. But some of those numbers, I'll give you an example. In 2024-25, the metal fabrication, that is a 2-year program. So you see the number 4, it's a 2-year program. So that's actually the same bank of students. It's not for additional students. So because of the 2-year requirement for that, some of those numbers will look repetitive. But I'm happy to answer any questions from here. This is just the basic enrollment. I can provide more if that's what the committee would like us to do for another meeting. But right now, this is where we landed with enrollment.
Thank you. Member Keegan?
Do you have any insight on the programming and web development and why it went from 139 to 66 in 1 year?
I don't. There was another, I don't have that actual number. Mrs. Tatro and I did have a conversation about that today. We looked at some courses. Dr. Toomey and I looked, Golubsky Toomey and I looked at some courses. We think there are some places where, again, kind of to the root cause conversation, what's happening there? Why are our kids either interested or is there a waning interest? What's happening there? Definitely more to explore. We also looked at the robotics number because I think that was pretty amazing if, we're moving in that way. I do think that those are obviously engineering classes, and maybe there's something there to be looked at. This is a starting point for sure. I think there's much more to capture in terms of talking to students and really connecting with counselors of why those things are happening. So I don't have those specific numbers for you yet. I would love to talk to students about that when they come back to really have those ideas, but I can gather some of those numbers if that's what you would like.
Yeah, I would. And I know last year when I went to the computer science fair, where the students were all there, I had been talking with some of the staff, and the staff had indicated that they had might want to try to reach the younger students sooner, and maybe like have a summer program where they could have some STEM summer programs to try to get that enrollment up a little bit. And I'm hoping that maybe we can explore that because these are our moneymakers.
Yeah, we to that point, we've actually looked at, we've applied for a grant and looking at some of our opportunities and bringing that down to middle school in terms of career pathways. So we're definitely exploring those opportunities and trying to work our feeder schools into all of those great things that are happening in Methuen High School. So we're on the same wavelength there. Just we'll see where we land with that.
Great, thank you.
You're welcome.
Vice Chair?
Thank you. So just out of clarification, these numbers could be the same individuals. These aren't net new folks.
No, for the After Dark, that was the one program I asked Ms. Tatro about. I don't have a lot of context for that.
Okay.
And she described specifically with the metal fab that was a 2-year program, and those were the same student. But I think in terms of the
CTE.
Yep.
They're all net new. Those are all net new? So if I'm in 2024, I was in early education care, is my enrollment counted in 2025 if I was a sophomore? I'm assuming yes, right?
If you continued in the pathway, yes. So those are all of our students who are in CTE pathways. I think what's important to look at too is Ms. Prietti included the exploratory counts in 26 and 27. In addition to giving those students an opportunity to learn about all the pathways, that's also, they also qualify for additional Chapter 70 aid. So those are, if you add those students into our Chapter 74 counts in 26, you have 754, and we're anticipating a total of 749 in 27. So when we're talking about how we're generating revenue, in a sense, while also serving our purpose of providing opportunity education for students, this is a really wonderful way to do that.
But I'm looking back at 2025. We didn't have exploratory. If we had exploratory, that number would be closer to 700-800 people. So what I'm looking at is this exploratory program is allowing us to kind of share the volume among the other classes, because we've seen a huge drop in a lot of these classes based off of at least one or two, and that's probably because of graduation rate. I'm assuming it's graduation, and we haven't backed in any additional students since then. Because if I look here in 2023, the number was 529 on its own with those 4 classes.
Well, now we're at 749.
Where are we at 700?
If you added in the exploratory to those Chapter 74s. I believe the totals there are just inclusive of the Chapter 74 programs,
Right,
not the Chapter 74 exploratory, which is also aid generating. Does that
I
make
don't-
sense?
No, it doesn't, because No, it really doesn't to me. I'm sorry, I'm kind of.
Okay, so if we look at 2027, if you add the number of Chapter 74 students in our pathways, biotech, early education and care, marketing, programming,
Yeah.
radio, you end up with the 552, which is similar to enrollment that we've had in the past. The difference is also included in Chapter 74 are our exploratory students, which add an additional 179 students to that mix. So it extends the experience for students in that they're able to begin an exploratory, choose what the pathway they're most interested in the next year, begin in that pathway. And so whereas last year was our first dose of exploratory, we're really only starting to see the benefits of it this year with our anticipated enrollment. And they're still working on the high school schedules, which is why that's called anticipated.
I mean, I'm looking at the enrollment right now for 2027. It says 552 plus the 30 from total N 74. That doesn't come up to 700.
So the 552 doesn't have the exploratory added in.
You sure? Because I'm looking at it right here on this grid. It's 197 is exploratory, 59, 146, 193. I could add it up, but if that's the case, then that column's misleading.
Yeah, I double checked it on
All
my
right, so that
calculator.
number 552 under anticipated is wrong. That should be 700.
It doesn't include exploratory. I'll change it for you.
I would, please, because if I'm looking at these columns, it's not adding up.
Point of information, you mentioned 179 as a number, and the vice chair here is seeing 197.
Sorry, 197. It's just, the only difference is the exploratory counts for last year and this year are not included in what was provided in the total.
Okay.
And I just want to point out that those are important.
It is when I'm trying to make sure the volume's there and not dropping. So that's why
No,
I'm asking.
yeah, no, we're adding students. So prior to exploratory, grade 9 students wouldn't have been included in those other pathways. Now that we have exploratory, that's where the grade 9 students fall. And then what you're looking at is 10th, 11th, and 12th graders in those other pathways.
All right, I would just, if we're gonna show a grid like this, I would just make sure the exploratories is counted in that total number, please. And thank you.
Sure.
Any other questions or comments? Member Stories?
The After Dark program, is there a time frame when a student can enroll in that?
Yes, so that
Sorry, I know you're
That's
new with
okay.
all this. I don't want to hit you with too many
No, that's
questions.
okay. I'm learning a lot about the high school, which is lovely. So, I have a whole slide on that. So I believe it follows the same process, Lisa? In terms of the selection process, it follows the same timeline for After Dark?
The selection process,
And
they would express their interest in the After Dark program in the spring prior to their junior year. And Ms. Tatro is very adept at having the counselors share that opportunity with students. We have had in the past a number of students who haven't been admitted to a vocational school who really are interested in learning those particular trades. And I imagine that'll still be the case with the lottery system especially. And so that provides a nice opportunity for students to receive their academic instruction with us in the morning and then still go to GLTS in the afternoon to receive their vocational training. So whereas GLTS operates on a week on, week off schedule, or 2 weeks on, 2 weeks off, we operate on a morning on, afternoon vocational for those After Dark programs. So and if you're thinking about funding and how that works, those aren't necessarily revenue generating for us, except that the students are part of our counts for our enrollment. And essentially, the funding that would come to the district for their vocational participation passes along to GLTS, and that we owe that to them. But it is a nice way for us to retain students. It's a nice way for students to take part in our world language classes and AP offerings that maybe GLTS doesn't offer, while still getting those same skills. So that it's increased in popularity, which we like to see students taking advantage of that. And Dr. Marks has calculated, this may help, Member DeZoglio, has calculated a relative difference in funding that has come our way as a result of the increased counts in CTE over the past couple of years.
Sure. So I think the key piece of information here to be aware of is that from 2025 to what we're projecting anticipated for 2027, that's about $800,000 more in state aid. So we're also seeing, as Dr. Golobsy mentioned, an increase in popularity with the GLTS After Dark program. But we are substantially increasing state aid by increasing our CTE programming internally within the district, and including shifting radio and television broadcasting, so that is, Chapter 74 eligible.
I just had one more question. How does the selection process work as far as who chooses the students to go? And is there a limit on how many we can send?
For After Dark, there had been a limit in years past, simply because it's an offering that they give to all of their sending districts. And sometimes it's difficult for them to find staff members who are willing to stay after dark beyond the typical school day, as many of them have other roles as well. And also, we in the past, as a district, have capped the number because it does come at a cost, and there was an effort to try to keep students vocationally within the district as well. This year, Ms. Tatro told me that the cap, which had been 22, was either raised or lifted from GLTS because they have additional staffing, and we felt it was important to provide that offering to our students. So these are students who are able to make it work. Some are not with the extended school day because they might have family responsibilities or want to take part in sports, athletics, clubs, band that meets after school or work. And so it's not as attractive to them. But we're fortunate to say that the students who are interested are able to attend at this point.
I think this is a great program, and I'm glad that we're involved in it, and our students are involved. Thank you.
We'll hear from Secretary Donovan, Member Baez, and Member Willett.
Member Soroy's asked most of my questions, but I just want to make sure, because the one thing that I have been asked about this program, is this advertised in the newsletter the high school principal puts out? Because I had a few parents say to me in the past year or two, like, I didn't know anything about it. I would have loved to have learned more. So it is advertised. Everyone's aware of it as best we can.
Mm-hmm. It's in the roadshow presentations that we give to 7th and 8th graders and to their families. And Mr. Corrett posts those slides. I believe we also show a video of those offerings. Post those slides in the newsletter and also celebrates those. And we also are interested in celebrating the vocational programming that we offer here. I think that's remarkable that since the addition of our 5th program, we've boosted funding approximately $1 million. All said, moving the radio and TV into Chapter 74 and adding exploratory. We spoke with Northern Essex Community College today about expanding our early college offerings. We're looking at submitting an addendum to our early college designation to include Northern Essex. And as part of that conversation, there was a staff member there, Liz Bennett, who previously had worked in CTE at DESE, and we had been talking about where are we going next? What's our 6th or even 7th program going to be? Because I do think that there's other offerings our students would have an interest in, which would have a nice byproduct for the district financially as well.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I recall in the past hearing that at least some of these programs have wait lists, or not every student gets what they're most interested in. Is that accurate?
So every year, we need to submit our waitlist data to the state. This year, it became more involved because of the lottery policy and process. We are, one of the advantages of being a comprehensive high school offering vocational programming, although there are many challenges, is that we have the flexibility to adjust our sections to respond to the student requests. So when students make their requests for a pathway or the courses that they'd like within a pathway, Ms. Tatro and the guidance counseling department, school counseling department, are able to adjust how many sections that we're offering. And if it ever came to the point where we would need an additional teacher, which we would love, we would be able to add them on. We talked about this year when we added or posted for an additional radio and TV broadcasting teacher, building out this space over here to match the classroom component that we have there and sharing the lab space. So usually some vocational schools have wait lists due to the number of students they're able to offer their services to, and we're flexible enough here where we're not yet at a point where students are not able to get in per se.
Awesome. So it's safe to say that there isn't a wait list here in our program.
Right,
Yeah.
yes.
And so I think about that in terms of capacity building in the long term, right? Which is what I know is a passion of yours as well, as we spoke about your thoughts on that. But I also wonder about the different things that we are expanding at the same time: early college education, after dark, CTE, but our enrollment is trending downwards. Is there any concern on your end on that piece on that?
No, my concern is more about having the student and family understand which is the best option for them in terms of where they're hoping to go in their post-secondary plans, because we have a lot of tempting programs and opportunities, and I think it's more of a selection from which is the best for them.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? If not, we'll move on to the report from the Assistant Superintendent of Student Services.
Thank you. So this memo provides an update for residency for the 25-26 school year. So that first chart that you have in the memo highlights just the regular residency investigations. So you'll see for last school year, we had a total of 232 investigations. We had 170 prove residency, 40 withdraw, 4 where there were certain circumstances given the timing of the year or different situations where we've approved students to stay for the remainder of the school year, and then 18 were referred to student services for protected information, different scenarios. The bottom chart or bottom summary just talks about our grade level residency verifications in grades 4 and 8 this past school year. So across the district, we verified 1,026 students across grades 4th and 8th grade. 4 students were withdrawn and 4 students were referred to student services.
Thank you, Ms. Bozak. Questions, comments? Member Baez, and I heard from Member Willett, so we'll hear from Member Baez and Member Willett.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. How many of the investigations were prompted by, let's say, an anonymous tip versus an investigation that spread from the district, let's say a teacher or someone that notices something off?
I would have to get you those exact numbers, but I can tell you that the majority of the investigations are prompted by staff initiating for various reasons, whether information has come up in a discussion, we've had returned mail, that triggers a residency investigation as well.
Thank you.
Member Willett?
Thank you. So when we say, for example, withdrawn from district, that essentially is they were in violation of our residency enforcement policy.
Correct.
Okay. And then secondly, are we reviewing the real estate transactions and matching them up?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, so our enrollment specialists actually engage in that often, at various times throughout the year, especially as we end one school year, start a new school year. We're looking at that. We're also looking at that during our grade level residency checks as well.
And then have we received any feedback via the hotline? Any phone calls?
No phone calls, but we do sometimes get the anonymous email, like through the link. We get more that way than we would on the phone line, but we still have that phone line active.
And then a lot of the reports are coming from the staff members?
Correct.
Okay. And then, do we need to have the school resource officers or law enforcement to visit the homes? I know in the next budget cycle, I've been advocating for a truancy officer or someone to review as years past residency enforcement. Is that something, a need we would have? Because we do a partial audit. We don't do a full audit. No one has to do it every single year. We do it piecemeal. So is there a need internally? Because we want to balance what we're going to be doing with school choice at the same time too. Anybody that's not here authorized, the taxpayers in Methuen are paying the full freight for that. So those 40 students, the Methuen taxpayers were paying for that. We could send out tuition statements, but that's after the fact. But obviously, it's a cost to Methuen residents, a breakdown of that every year. So we average, since the inception, back when I started the residency enforcement policy, at first we had about 150 students we removed because we did a full audit. Then every year after that, it was averaging about 50 students. So we're in line with the 40 students, along with the 4 that I guess we're allowed to stay for the remainder of the year because of circumstances, which I kind of understand. But do we need to have home visits? Do we want to do that at this stage?
So Dr. Glopsky and I have started to engage in some of those conversations, so I don't have a definitive answer for you tonight with that. But we've talked about what that could look like, how we could partner with our school resource officers to also engage in that. We do have some administrators that partner with their SROs already and do some home visits for different reasons, including this. But that is a conversation that we started to engage in just a couple of weeks ago.
Okay. And I appreciate the vigilance, and like I said before, we updated and modernized the original residency enforcement policy, and there was some elements that I was really appreciative of. Reviewing the real estate transactions, involving law enforcement. Again, the next budget, I know there's a commitment to look at the truancy officer, but it's some type of component of school resource officers or law enforcement doing these home visits. And also what transpires is you have a divided home of a divorced situation or a grandparent that might be out of state transporting a child to a school, and they're just doing it for the benefit of one of the parents. And then it raises all the rumors of, oh, it's an out-of-state plate, dropping off a child, they must be in violation, and it's really not the case.
Correct.
So the vigilance is gonna be ongoing, obviously, and I think that's the component we really have to explore is sometimes the home visits based on the reports, and then you lay the concerns of individuals. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other comments or questions? If not, we will move on. Next on the agenda, we have an update regarding HR. Do we have any HR updates?
No, I included some information under staff requests, which falls later in the agenda.
Thank you, Dr. Lepsey. Next on the agenda, we have finance and operations. 2 notes are on the agenda. First of all, the FY26 end-of-year final reports will be presented on the 14th of September. Same for the FY27 monthly reports. Those are going to begin during the September 14th meeting. Next on the agenda, we have contract awards. None on the agenda tonight. Next, we have FY '27 grant awards. We have approval of the Brookline Center for Community Mental Health Award on the agenda. I'll ask for a motion and a second to approve.
So moved. Second.
Motions from the vice chair, seconds from Member Royce. Any discussion? Member Willett?
I'm very appreciative, and this is just a general statement about where we're moving on grant acquisitions. And I really appreciate that. I see it with the Green Works and with the other grants that we're obtaining. So I just want to commend whoever's involved in that. Thank you.
Member Baez?
Thank you. Through you to the superintendent, has the city's new grant procurement firm started working with the administration yet?
We, several of us attended a meeting organized by the mayor and attended by other departments in the district to learn about some of the offerings of the group. And they have reached out to us to get some information, I believe, for the dash that's being constructed, so that the public will be able to view more readily grants that we're receiving and for the purpose for which we're receiving those. Additionally, John Crocker, who secured this grant that we're discussing, also reached out to Cambuyer, I believe is the name of the group, for their assistance. He's working on a significant grant in partnership with the city, also supported by Mass General Hospital, and was looking to see if they'd be able to potentially put their eyes on the narratives and pieces that we're submitting, or if they had any support for that. So I haven't heard back from Mr. Crocker as to whether he received that assistance yet, but he was attempting to make use of that resource.
Perfect. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Member Sir Royce?
Do we have, by the way, kudos to John Crocker, Katie Puetti. I mean, this is a fantastic grant that we've received from them. I'm not sure, is there only a few districts in the state that receive this? I'm not sure how that.
I'm very proud of this. In my former role as a supervising principal at the CGS, we are the only grammar school, CGS is the only grammar school in the state that has this model. It is pretty amazing. The work that we did there, this Brookline Center and the Bright Group actually was working with another really big city and decided to put all of their efforts into Methuen. So it's a wonderful opportunity, very important, very needed. And there's great work happening there. So thank you for asking.
Congratulations on that.
Yeah,
I
it's
think
great.
it's phenomenal. We do have DCF involved in foster youth in every one of our schools. Is this something that can be looked at in the future for our other schools, or is it a particular ratio of students they look at?
Yeah,
or-
so the Bright program is a little bit different than Compass. Compass, they're both involved, it's kind of under the larger umbrella, but the Compass program specifically looks at students who are in DCF care. There's a lot of important work there that happens with the Center for Juvenile Justice. It's a really big group, but predominantly working with DCF. The Bright program, which works kind of in conjunction with that, does not have that descriptor of having it being DCF identified students, but sometimes there's some similar agencies that students are working with. It's just, this is really coded for students that are living having DCF involvement.
I see. And then, I just had one other question about the firm, the grant firm through the city. Is part of what they do to search for grants that, I'm not really I haven't really heard too much about them. I'm just curious as to what their position is. I know you said they're gonna place a dashboard, create a dashboard, but are they actively seeking grants for schools from the state and the federal government?
So I can fill everybody in on that. So right out of the gate, oh my gosh, I just used that phrase again. Right out of the gate. You know, I need to stop with the filler here. Okay, so where do I begin? Crystal clear, right out of the gate. So we had our kickoff meeting right at the turn of the fiscal year with this group. I'm kind of, I guess, an odd duck by way of including the schools in what otherwise has probably historically been a city-side conversation where we've had these silos, city versus schools. We're trying to, intentionally get rid of that notion. And so, of course, the school department is a part of these conversations from soup to nuts. In terms of the actual function of this firm, we are working with them on, as was mentioned, the development of this dashboard, allowing us to, in essence, have for the first time a citywide picture of our grants efforts. Every department has been very much siloed in terms of what they do in the context of grants. And so the thinking is to give us sort of a 30,000-foot view of everything that's going on so that we can track our progress a little more efficiently and I guess, be better strategists when it comes to seeking grants. But then beyond the dashboard concept, the objective in tandem with that is assisting us with prospecting. Now, one thing that I made clear in the RFP when we were going out to bid for these services is that in terms of the goals that we're setting for the company, we are casting aside anything that is, say, an entitlement grant, anything that we are getting simply by way of being a school district, right, in the United States or in the Commonwealth. Putting those aside, the focus is on trying to chase after opportunities that are not entitlement related, that are competitive. And the goal that I've established for them is on the ambitious side, but I think for a city of our size, certainly doable, considering the fact that we're not only chasing after opportunities for the school district, but for the city as well. So this is another example of an area where I'm viewing the city and the schools in the same bucket, so to speak. So we're just getting this off the ground now, and we'll continue to loop the school committee into the progress there. But I think it might be helpful for us, maybe, I don't know, once a quarter to do a check-in with our partnership with the firm. Granted, it's very much a city-side partnership, but they are here for us on the school side as well.
I was just asking because I noticed the superintendent twice mentioned contacting them for help with our grants as opposed to them contacting us for anything. I was just curious as to if they were contacting us for any grants that are out there that we'd be interested in, that's all.
Yeah, and we're also in the process of, really trying to get this structure off the ground in terms of a more citywide effort. And so as we continue to get it off the ground, any tweaks we need to make in terms of communication strategy, we can keep that very much in open discussion. Thank you. Of course. Other questions, comments? If not, we're voting on the Brookline, the mental health grant. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. Next on the agenda, we have approval of the PRISM 3 grant. We need motions from the vice chair, seconds from member Royce. Discussion? There's no discussion. We'll vote. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Next on the agenda, we have old business, school choice approval of openings. We need a motion and a second for approval of the openings.
Motion to approve the superintendent's recommendation.
Second.
Motions from member Baez, seconds from member Royce. I'll invite the superintendent to share.
Sure. I'd like to walk you through the memo that's provided here. So at the, I believe it was July 22nd meeting, the vote was to partake in school choice. And following that meeting, there was some question about whether there needed to be a distinct motion that included the number and placement of the seats and approval by the school committee. And so Mike McCarroll, our legal counsel, had weighed in and said that there was enough language suggesting that school committee was the body granting that authority, that it would be wise to have the formal vote and approval for where and the number of those seats before we went ahead and executed the will of the committee to move forward with school choice. So also, Attorney Maccaro referenced that there is language about superintendent providing information or recommendations to be considered by the school committee. So I have done that here. We are seeing some interesting trends in our kindergarten enrollment, which I'll get to later. Because of that, and because we are still actively taking registrations, I consider that grade level to be in flux at the moment. I'd like to steer away from K. Similarly, at the high school, we're working through getting our students not only their graduation requirements, but their competency determinations. If you recall, we voted on those, or you voted on those just last year, and now we're starting to see our younger students who aren't able to use MCAS scores for their competency determination. We have a portion of students who have found a challenge in that, so we're working to support them in granting their requests for course selection. So I'd like to stay away from high school because we do have some class size concerns there as well. So that leaves the grades 1 through 8. I provided a couple options here for you to consider. The first being that when, thank you to Ms. McCarthy, who sat on Friday with me and pulled this most recent enrollment data too. We looked at grades 1 through 8. Typically, we make some assumptions as to our enrollment in the spring by just moving that number of students up to the next grade level. But seeing as we're this late into the summer, we were able to get some new figures. I looked at the smallest current class sizes we have across the district and grade. The smallest right now is grade 2 at the Marsh. The average number of students in each of those classes is 17. So with a recommendation of adding, say, 10 seats for school choice, as I believe that was the number that I had heard from a number of the members who were interested in a pilot, per se, of school choice for this year. If you went with adding 10 students to grade 2 at the Marsh, there's 5 classes right now, so it'd be essentially adding 2 students to each class, which would bring their number to 19. For the moment, barring any additional enrollments. And then I provided for you the other grade 2 class sizes in the district. So the CGS is just about 20, the Tenney 21, 22, and the Timony is about 23 students. So that would be option 1. I am a little hesitant to place all students in one grade in one school in case there is something unpredictable in terms of enrollment or need, whether it's multilingual learner supports. Would that impact the caseloads of those providers? That's something to consider. Also, I've been talking a lot about homeroom sizes and academic class sizes, but certainly there's an impact on specialist class sizes as well, as we're sometimes combining classes to then enjoy or engage in a specialist class. The second option would be, again, looking at grades 1 through 8, and I identified all the areas where currently the class size, average class size is lower than 20, so really 19. And there are only 3 in the district. So one being the Marsh, grade 2, which I just mentioned, the second being Marsh, grade 4, and the third being Tenney, grade 1. So my other recommendation for you to consider would be dividing those seats among those grade levels. So potentially 4 in grade 2 at the Marsh, 3 in grade 4 at the Marsh, and 3 in grade 1 at the Tenney. So again, the rationale there would just be targeting the spots where we have class sizes below 20, of which is only 3, and then dividing the proposed 10 seats there. Also in the memo, I put together some school choice guidelines, of which I believe the design of school choice is your purview as well. What I did here was I pulled from Chelmsford, Amesbury, and Georgetown, 3 current school choice districts. I started with what they had used. They each had a different way of expressing their guidelines. I did amend some of them to suit what I think would be best for us here. So just the idea here would be if you approve school choice tonight in one of these particular recommendations, tomorrow morning we'd be able to post on the website the guidelines, the application, and get things rolling that way. So to walk you through this briefly, first just stating that this would be open to students who reside outside of the city of Methuen, not necessarily students within the city who are requesting placement in a different school. Secondly, noting that there's not preference given to students based on their characteristics, that it's open to all students. Third, that we would not be providing transportation for students, and that would be the responsibility of the parents and guardians. Fourth, that students who enroll in school choice would be able to remain in the district throughout their educational career. The language I saw from another district said would be able to remain in the school, and I thought it was smart that another district had changed that to district instead of school, because they noted that there may be a redistricting or allocation of buildings at one point, so I wanted that to be clear. That students who were admitted would not need to reapply, and that they would be part of the program should they wish to do so. And then for the application deadline, I set that at next Monday, because I think parents have a right to know where their student is going to school and if they've been accepted into our school choice program or not. And I did feel as though we needed a few days to get it out there to families. And it outlines here that there'll be a lottery at that point. For if their applications exceed the count of 10 that's recommended, we would do a lottery to determine which students receive those seats, and then create a wait list following. Certainly students that whose applications came after the deadline, should there be space available, could also be permitted. But if late applications come in, they could be on the wait list. I talked about that the registration would then need to be completed with the FRC, our Family Resource Center, and that our policies and regulation would apply to school choice students. So those are the guidelines. Pretty generic, though I think thorough enough that families would have a sense of what would be expected of them and offered to them. And then looking for your opinion on the seats and placement of them. So again, recommending a count of 10, either in this one grade level where the class sizes are lowest, or dividing among the 3 lowest throughout the district. Thank you.
Member Soares?
So, because I'm all new to this, as far as school committee goes, would we create a policy for school choice or no? Because one of my thoughts is to somehow tie in attendance to this, because the parents are going to be driving the students to school. And I don't think we want to have a classroom disrupted every day with a student that's late every day. I don't know if that's something that we can include. And I also wasn't sure about registering and getting all their paperwork in time. Is that something that we want to hold them to a certain date so that they're not holding up a spot for somebody else if they don't have immunizations and the student can't start for another 3 weeks? Those are just a couple of things that I was thinking of. Thank you.
Any other?
Are you looking for a response, or? No. Oh, there's just a question. Okay. I mean.
Do you have something to say about
I
this?
do,
Okay.
I do. You know, I understand, good questions, by the way, good questions. We're asking a heck of a lot of our administration, who is brand new, like one person literally just sat in the seat for the first day, okay? Getting his bearings. You're second, but you're in the district, so you get a small pass. And we're starting constellations. So, like, I don't know what revenue driver we're expecting out of this, but when I heard all about this a month ago, it was 10 seats in the second grade. I don't see those two options here. Again, we're all trying to come up with a solution to something, and we're talking about SOPs and policies and options. I don't think we're ready. Like, this should be going to committee, should be discussed with administration, the union, teachers, feedback. Because again, we all sit here and we're all saying, hey, let's listen to the experts. Well, if I'm listening to the expert who also said that this isn't the right time for it, and she's giving us two options tonight, who says those are the right two options too? If we're gonna go based off of everyone's mindset here on this thing, who says those are the two best options? Maybe we should just do the marsh and anyone can go to the marsh. That could be a good option. We need to discuss it. And we're expecting students to apply to something, which I'm not sure, is there like a www.schoolofchoice.gov? Like where parents are gonna get this information? Are we doing all of this now to see zero return? And then we all look back at this and said, we tried? Yeah, we're trying. I get we're trying. But trying to make a good decision versus a forced decision is two different things. And this is a forced decision. And I don't think the community will slap us on the wrist by saying we did nothing, because we are doing a lot right now. Constellations, the push and outreach, the policy committee. I really do think we should motion to send this to committee, create a policy, listen to the superintendent, work with the superintendent, and come up with the plan, because I will be a yay all the way to the cows come home next time around if there is a plan in front of me with some sort of impact statement. We need guardrails. We need guidelines. We need something for this group to follow. And if we sit here and we're making decisions again on something that's due next week, that's a forced decision. Thank you.
Member Willett?
I honestly didn't want to relitigate this entire situation, because we've been debating this ad nauseum. Now, the whole concept of we were going to pigeonhole the school choice enrollees into one grade, that was farcical. That was never taken into consideration. We were talking about a cap of a universe of 10 students, and I thought the lower grade levels. I never intimated high school students. I thought the superintendent presented a very comprehensive plan that was vetted by our school attorney. And you had well within your right as a school committee member at any time to have a legal advisory that said what we were doing as the will of the committee, and it was 5-2 vote, to say we were in poor judgment, or we were in violation of the state law, or we are in violation of rules or Robert's Rules of Order. And none of that transpired. I understand the opposition. They came to the podium again tonight. And what I heard was that they want the taxpayers of Methuen to bear the burden of services. And I said the same thing at prior meetings. You had a millionaire's tax that barely passed, and we currently have an $800 million surplus. The governor offered a plan of $100 million to supplement the layoffs that were occurring all across the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. How did that end up? That went down to flames because the Speaker of the House and the Senate President. We did get additional monies, but not sufficient numbers to bolster what we need and the vision of this school district. And every year, we have three components. Our wish list, which I don't like to characterize that, because we want to have the finest education for our public students, okay? We have layoffs that incur that usually are the youngest ranks of our teachers, or we have massive vacancies, and a lot of times in special education. So we're finally joining the GIC in January, and we're starting to incur some savings. I propose consolidation every single year, okay? That was something that we should have done in the years past. So where are the solutions from the other side? And again, this is a roadmap. So on one hand, I've been hearing that this is going to bust our budget and bust our enrollment numbers, and we will not be able to handle the situation. On the other hand, in my actual conversations with my colleagues, we thought we were reasonable in setting a cap of about 10 students, roughly, out of 6,200. And that would be spread across the whole district. I thought this is a roadmap, not only for the current times, but also for the future times, right? She indicated that the enrollment numbers for kindergarten would preclude us from doing school choice. And she wanted to spread the wealth, so to speak, and have the numbers reasonable. Not for one grade level, not situated in the kindergarten, and it's highlighted in the memo. But again, you're saying that we've not had these discussions before, or that we've not had these conversations with the superintendent, or that we're rushing to judgment. God forbid, down the line, I'm on the opposing side of an issue, and every single meeting, right, I'll bring up about the will of the committee and how you guys rush through a process, because I've been told the Massachusetts Association of School Committees that we're supposed to work in collaboration with one another, and that we respect the will of the committee, okay? You might be in disagreement, sir, but please don't question the rationale of my thinking on this process. When you talk about 10% reduction, when I first came back to the school committee, and Neil Perry presented us the survey results before we were gonna do the cultural survey, right? And it was a 10% reduction, and you were, I believe, at that meeting. Since that time, I think we have anticipated about a 5% reduction in our enrollment, and I don't see it stabilizing across the state. So do me a big favor, you take your time. And we've been focused on structural reforms, and I know this school system can handle it. And the taxpayers demand it. And sometimes it's been decades in the waiting. The GIC and consolidation ideas, and now school choice. Sometimes, you know, when you experiment, there's a big fear in this country about experimentation, and a lot of times it works. And Martha Sorois hit it right on the head. It says, what do we do when we have students that come in on school choice that have absolutely perfect attendance and absolutely great behavior? Because I got the mindset that every single school choice student is going to be problematic, a behavioral child, and causing major issues, right? And I hated that element, because that's what I heard at the podium and online, okay, from different people. I've not had one taxpayer from Methuen that wasn't a teacher, right, that was critical of what we're trying to do, because they know in the grand scheme of things, we're interested in structural reforms. And that sometimes is a difficult situation, but we all represent the taxpayers of Methuen. So again, I think the roadmap is something she worked diligently on. Again, it's a very limited time frame, and we have to operate under the constraints of state law. We're not going to approve a child that doesn't have all the proper paperwork. And obviously, I'm a big residency enforcement person, so they have to make sure everything is verified before they step into that classroom. Now, ultimately, that might not work, and I'll grant that. But do me a big favor. On one hand, don't criticize the number that we're proposing, which is modest. And on the other hand, you say, well, it's not going to be enough resources for us or enough finances for us. You can't have both door number one and door number two. You really can't. Thank you.
Mr. Chair, I would like to respond concerning that was,
Just a minute.
well, if we're not following
So-
Robert's Rules of Order, I mean,
No, we're not having a back and forth.
well, Mr. Chair, there was a lot of things said that were directed at me that wasn't, he was looking at me the whole time. So if you're telling me that was not directed at me the whole time, I don't know what we're doing.
So here's the thing, it is not at all productive to get into
Well,
what
I would
would
like
be
to,
back and forth.
I know, but I would like to say one more.
We can circle back.
Okay, I'll circle
We can
back.
circle
Go ahead,
back.
go ahead.
We can hear from Member Keegan, Secretary Donovan. We'll start with Member Keegan, then Secretary Donovan, and then we'll keep going.
So, listening to the president of the teachers union, she clearly stated that numbers above 20 were large classes. The plan that Dr. Globsky just presented to us, if we add 10 seats in grade 2 at the Marsh, we are keeping that number under 20. Considering that our budget, we expected to cut teachers to make class sizes 30, we're actually 11 students below that number that we had already said was the number for our year. So I'm thrilled that we have lower class sizes. And in addition to that, in choosing school choice, we're also keeping the number below what the head of the teachers union just came up to the podium and said we should keep it under. So in my opinion, I think we should go with option 1 because it satisfies the teachers union as well as school choice. Thank you.
And I have a question for Dr. Golopsky. So looking at option 2, how would that work? Would you assign, or someone in the district assign the school to the student? Or would there be an opportunity for the incoming student's family to select the school?
I think that that's up for discussion, if there's an opinion on that. I think it would get a little messy for, considering there's so few seats right now, to be offering, considering that we have a grade 4 option in option 2, and then we have a grade 1 option, and then a grade 2 option. So really, if you're looking at the second, I don't want to say option again, but the second of the 2 options, it would really be by the grade level determining the building. And then the first option is all in grade 2 at the Marsh. So I think that would be pretty clear. I would get worried if they were grade 2 at many different schools. That would get a little bit difficult, I think, at this point.
And to be clear, I feel like this needs to be a standing item on our agenda. It's all we've been talking about since, I don't know when. Is this our 4th time?
in a row.
I don't know, but, and I'm not saying that to be snarky, but like, we need to put this to bed one way or the other.
Not when you vote.
So that said, the deadline, have to get this after tonight. This has to go up on the website so families would know. And the deadline for families to say, I want to go to Methuen, and I meet, would be the 24th. So are there any districts that do school choice all year long, or is it limited to the enrollment at the beginning of the year?
So the idea with the deadline on the 24th is at that point, we would see if we had the number of applications exceed the 10 seats. And if we did, we would stop right there and do the lottery for the only 10 seats. If we did not have 10 applications, we could remain open and we can add them in as they go. But at some point, it has to end for the lottery, and I think because we're up against it, I thought that
Yeah.
that made sense.
Because that's next week.
I think most districts in the spring set their number of seats, and then there's a longer duration of time to get applications, but those would be the seats that they would hold open for the year if they did not receive ample applications. I'm not sure how this will go. We could have 30 applications by next Monday, we could have 5. But I thought we needed a drop-dead check-in point so people can get moving and know that, yes, you've been accepted, please give us your information to properly register.
Which can take some time. We all know. Sometimes it takes a while to register a child because it's hard to get all the paperwork. Am I correct, Ms. Bozak? I see you're revving up over there.
You're correct, but the part that they will not be providing is the
Residency,
residency, which
right.
I think is sometimes what holds up
Yeah.
some
I'm thinking
information.
about some of the medical records.
Right.
Sometimes that birth certificate, you can't find it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, thank you for that. I just want to say, one way or the other, I wish we could, I know we have people on different sides. Let's put this baby to bed. It's tired. It's getting cranky, right? Let's just put it to bed.
Member Byers?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, through you. I will say, I agree with Member Donovan, we got to put it to bed. So at the end of my statements, I will be making a secondary motion to approve the second option, as it seems to be the favorite of the two of the superintendent, but I will get to that when I get to that. What I wanted to say is, we had a former school committee member come up to the podium in the past, say that school choice, that he specifically voted for school choice in the negative side of things because he didn't really understand it or was confused of the way that it was presented. And I think that that's important because we voted on this on July 22nd, I believe. That's almost a month ago. And at that meeting, the administration, despite having an opinion of being against for the time, could have brought to us a recommendation, but they did not. Okay? And that was a month ago. Now we have a recommendation that is comprehensive, that I believe is reasonable, nicely made, and enough to move forward, in my personal opinion. And so I'm not going to get into the debate about school choice and its merits, because I obviously believe that its merits are there and necessary for our district. But like Member Donovan said, enough is enough. It was a 5-2 vote in its formal vote, and so it's time to put it to rest. And so my question to you, Superintendent, quickly, of the two options, what I'm hearing is that the second option is your preferred, or the first.
I think either would work. For the reason I mentioned previously, I think putting all the seats in one grade level in one school leads to some unpredictability in terms of arranging caseloads for services. Whereas if we spread the students out, I think it would be more manageable. That being said, on the flip side, if we wanted to track the program over the course of the year, it'd probably be easier to do in the one grade level as opposed to different grade levels and multiple buildings. So putting that out for your consideration, I would be okay with either. But certainly also in the back of my mind, truthfully, I do have the teachers in mind as to their reception of this and how that might feel to be the only grade in the entire district who's having this new program. I thought sometimes sharing the responsibility in different buildings is worthwhile as well.
Right, but those students will move on 3rd, 4th, 5th grade in future years.
Right, I just think because it's been discussed so much and it's new.
Yep.
And new for people, and teachers are already eager to get their class lists and start making their classes feel welcoming and personalizing things. That it's important for us to just choose a direction, but I'm fine with either. In trying to follow Attorney Maccaro's recommendation that it's the committee considering our recommendations, but ultimately suggesting what you think would be best.
Right. So, with that, just to see the appetite of the full committee, I'm just going to put it out there. The secondary motion to approve the first option to see where people are at on that, under the approval in its entirety. If that's okay.
Is there a second to, in essence, clarify the main motion to
Second.
specify a particular option, which is option
One,
number
the first
one?
one, yep.
That Member Byers is suggesting, that's seconded by Member Keegan. We have further discussion. We can circle back for another round, and I'll recognize the Vice Chair.
Thank you. I won't look at you directly this time. I'll just go back over here. You know, I know this is like the 5th or 6th time we're talking about this. And from the original conversation, because it failed the first time we voted on it, and they came back again to have the discussion. The will of the committee, again, has to pick an option tonight, which if the main motion from the original date, if someone went to legal and had that conversation up front, you would have probably been told to do this back in July. Am I correct in that statement?
Yes?
So here we are, again, the will of the committee, rushing something, didn't go to legal to have the conversation. Yes, I did go to legal 3 times. Thanks, Mike. I know you probably billed me multiple times. But I went to make sure the legalities of all this was correct, so that this committee did not look like we are right now. So putting it to bed is what? Picking an option here now. Who says, again, the option's correct? The superintendent just said, I'm fine with either option, but the committee needs to make the decision. So do note that if we fail either one of these tonight, it's back to 0. Because if we fail one, you gotta pass the other. And if you fail both, there's 0 options unless someone reconsiders. So I just want to make sure everyone knows Robert's Rules of Order on this, because we're following Robert's Rules of Order. So I disagreed one school should bear the burden, hence because Constellations is also going to the Marsh, if I recall. Am I correct in that statement?
Yes, Constellations will be in the sub-separate program.
But that will be at the Marsh. And if we're also saying we're adding this program at the Marsh too, it's 2 programs that the Marsh is going to have to materialize and maintain. Am I correct in that statement?
Yeah, once we enroll the students, it should function no differently than a Methuen resident would.
Okay, so, but there's a lot of outside stuff that we have to pay attention to, because again, this committee is going to be asking for data for that program, both programs at the Marsh. So I want to make sure that if we were to pick this option, is this going to be something that the school, I know it's 10 students, no different if 10 students showed up on Oak Street or on Pelham Street. But again, these 10 students, we don't know who they are. We don't know where they're going to be coming from. Not once did I say violence or criminals or anything like that, which was said earlier. I think it's maintaining the ability to be consistent, making sure they're coming in on time, making sure the parents can get them there, making sure it's the right criteria for them, the right, fit. You're saying no to option 1. Though, if we were to pick something today, option 1 would not be your choice. I know you said it's the least, you don't want it all in one place. It'd be easier to put them in all other schools. So that would be option 2. So option 1, you would not prefer.
I presented both options because I thought they were both feasible for the district. There's a level of unpredictability in the enrollment, each of our schools also has some programming where there's students who are not listed in the homeroom rosters who do sometimes push into classrooms as appropriate, depending on their needs as well. So from the information I have at this point in time, Dr. Marks has pulled up the class size list for me. That was my rationale for presenting these two options. These are the only grade levels that are falling right now below 20 students per class in grades 1 through 8. And I thought that it wouldn't be too heavy a burden in terms of class size based on the information I have available into these places. So I had heard lower grades before. I had heard about 10 seats. I was ready to move on that after the last meeting, and it was brought to my attention that there needed to be a formal vote specifying just that. And so that's what I'm bringing to you today, so that we're able to execute as planned.
Thank you, I'm all set.
We can have a second round, Member Royce.
I just want to reiterate something that I asked Assistant Superintendent Bozak 1 or 2 meetings ago. Constellations is not going to be run by the administration at the Marsh, correct?
Constellations is supporting our Pathways Special Education program that is located at the Marsh. There is going to be one special education administrator that is overseeing that program. With that being said, the principals still have authority over the students that are in that building.
Right, but most of what is going to happen in that
Is
program is going to
oversaw-
be overseen by you.
By the special
and
education
SEA.
administrator and myself, yes.
Thank you.
Member Willett.
I'm trying to understand this concept because I've served now 15 years as a city councilor and school committee member. And I do recall the city council at times, when someone was on a prevailing vote on an issue, a very controversial issue at times, that was brought up for reconsideration. So I might have to go back the last maybe 6 to 10 years and reach out to Linda Gagnon and find out if someone was on the prevailing side of an issue and decided to switch their vote and approve a controversial item. Because I'm trying to understand the concept of, we do realize that we have option number 1 and option number 2. And because of my prior statements, I said I wanted to have a cap of 10 students, and I wanted to spread the wealth to facilitate the process for both the administration and the individual schools. So I am favorable towards option number 2. Now, again, I've always been in favor of structural reforms, and I've really never had any endorsements from any unions in Methuen. I've been a big advocate for the GIC for decades, going back into the late 1990s, because I was part of the GIC. And I would imagine the mayor's outreach on a healthcare analysis of how much could have saved by joining the GIC. But again, there was obstinance from certain ranks, and that had a direct impact on the taxpayers, and that had a direct impact on the cash reserves. Is this going to be a panacea? No. Is it going to really tax the school system? No. Is it an experiment? Yes. Is it going to be data-driven? Yes. Do other school systems entertain school choice? Yes. Give me about 4 or 5 years ago, and we're bursting at the seams with school enrollment. Would I be in favor of school choice? No. I'm faced with the reality of the state will not provide enough resources to the localities. Our own teachers union, speech after speech, and the red shirts indicate we don't have enough resources. We're finally joining the GIC. There's no stomach apparently for consolidation, and I want to entertain school choice. okay? You were on the other side of the issue, and I can respect that. And we don't need to personalize the debate on any party. And I don't invoke anybody's name, I don't say anybody's background, I debate about the issues. But again, let's take the reality of if I was on the prevailing side of an issue and I was working with some of my colleagues and I said, okay, this is a structural reform and I will look at something long-term, just like GIC. And if I have my head handed to me, the best thing about it is that people go to that ballot box, and I've won 8 elections at large. Okay? We'll test it, just like we tested it a couple of years ago. And I was on the opposing side of a lot of issues regarding the budget and supporting the GIC. I'll take this to the voters, because the only people that really were in opposition on this were people employed by the school system who will have to implement it. God forbid. Thank you.
All right, I think we're going to wrap discussion. We'll vote on option 1, but I just want to state for the record, I've heard it a couple of times now. I can't speak to past administrations, past leadership in terms of unions, but I just want to give credit where credit is due. We would not have been able to even contemplate the switch in terms of health insurance and the GIC without the partnership of the unions. And so I just want to, again, reiterate my thanks to them for working with us on that issue. Literally would not have been able to do it without them. And so, again, there may have been some past history there. I don't think I or current leadership in terms of unions can really speak to that, but here we are now, and we did that together. So with that, we'll take a vote on option 1. This is on the agenda for approval of these opening options here, and so there isn't one particular option on the agenda. There's a motion regarding option 1. If we have to revisit and take a look at option 2, we will, but at this point, let's take a roll call vote on option 1.
Vice Chair DeZoglio,
Yes.
Donovan Grassi, no. Member Baez?
No.
Member Keegan?
Yes.
Member Saroyce?
No.
Member Willett?
No.
And Mayor Beauregard?
Yes.
So close.
All right, so that fails. So we'll take a look at option 2, if there is a motion.
I'll make a motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
Wait a minute, can we slow this down a minute? I just want to make sure, who made the motion?
Member Baez and Member Saroyce regarding option 2. Discussion about option 2? Vice Chair?
Thank you. I just want to say, there was 2 things stated earlier. You know, having good debate is what it is meant to be an elected official. And I can tell you the Searles estate failed and came back
Let's stay
at the second meeting.
somewhat relevant.
So like when we fail something and we reconsider it in the council, just as a point of information, you have until the next meeting to fix it, not 5 or 6 special meetings in between. So I just want to be clear, there was a lot of ample time to put this together for the administration. And so this second option should have been discussed back in June when we voted on this on the first time. That's all I'm saying. Not pointing fingers, not saying anyone failed. I don't want this committee to fail. I'm not saying you guys can't collaborate and work together, because I've done that with every single one of you so far, pro and against here. So it has nothing to do with being prevailing side or not. It's what I think is right for the current administration that has a lot of change in front of them.
I'm going to get out my proverbial fishing rod and try to
Reel it back in.
kind of get
So,
back.
I mean, I don't, there's no back and forth, so I'm using my time to, when people are directing at me, the point of cross back and forth is something that's in Robert's rules. So,
Chair, I'd like to move the question.
there we go.
Is there a second to move the question? All right.
No, too late. That's the point.
All discussion.
Filibustering. That's what a filibuster is.
All right. All those in favor of moving the question?
Yay.
Opposed? The the question's been moved, we'll take a vote on option 2. Roll call?
On option 2, Chair DeZoglio?
No.
Donna McGrassy, no. Baez?
Yes.
Keegan?
Yes.
McCarthy Soroyce?
Yes.
Willett?
Yes.
And Beauregard.
Yes. All right. We clarified the option, okay.
Done.
Next, we have an update on the school budget for fiscal year '27 from the superintendent.
Just a point of clarification, did you have to approve the overall, or is that only option that you had to approve?
I'm just following the agenda.
Okay, I just want to make sure we had to pick an option and then overall approval, but okay. I just want to make sure.
Okay, budget update, thank you. So Dr. Marks can speak to this. We would like to put before you a fresh binder for FY27. It's been a while. We've been back and forth talking about different roles and funding sources, and I think that would be smart for everyone moving forward. So we aim to have that for you at the next meeting, which will be a week from today, at our scheduled workshop date.
Yeah, that will give me a little more time. I just completed my first week to really do a deep dive with the budget. And also, we just received the end of year files from DESE as well. So that'll be a good opportunity to really, put together a new binder for everyone. And we are, finalizing the last few items in terms of making sure we have a balanced budget for this current fiscal year.
Any comments or discussion? All right, thank you. Next on the agenda, we have new business. We have the approval of the designation for our CREST board representative. Not to get too deep into the weeds before we have a motion in a second to approve, but this is sort of a formal, like a, what am I trying to say? Not procedural, but a formality, so to speak. Typically, the board membership is superintendent. So the delegate for Methuen would be Dr. Golubsky. Do we have a motion in a second to formalize that?
Second.
Motions from the vice chair, seconds from member Keegan. Discussion?
Yes, Chair.
Member Soers?
I just, on the last paragraph, delegate by the superintendent, should that say interim superintendent? I'm not sure.
So, just a thought that I have, this is just a memorandum to the committee. I don't look at this as formal legislation of any kind.
Okay, thank you. I didn't know if it had to be sent somewhere. That was the
Yeah.
reason why I thought that.
Well, we can, I guess in our communication with Crest, I'm sure they're aware. Any other questions, comments? If not, we'll vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. Congratulations, another thing on your plate. Next, we have other personnel matters. There's an item on the agenda regarding staffing requests. There's a memo attached as well. I don't know if this
Yes.
requires formal adoption or if this is simply discussion.
We're looking
at some
for
requests.
approval,
Okay.
yes.
So we'll have a motion and a second, then discussion.
So moved.
Motions from member Keegan,
Second.
seconds from Secretary Donovan. Discussion? Member Keegan?
So I noticed that you're looking for 2 kindergarten teachers, one at the Tenney and one at the Marsh. And I noticed that in your last memo for school choice, you stated that the Marsh second grade has 17 students, where all the other second grade classrooms in the district are much higher. If you removed one teacher from the second grade at the Marsh and put it in kindergarten, you would raise the class sizes to 21, which would still be below the Timony's class sizes in the second grade. And then we wouldn't need to bring on 2 teachers, we'd only need to bring on 1. So I'm wondering if that's not an option.
On Monday, I'll be coming with some additional information about moves that we're making. So what we're forecasting is, just to speak to this briefly, higher enrollment than anticipated at Marsh and Tenney, in terms of those that we've registered, those that are in process, understanding that we do get some additional enrollments. We would prefer to bring on the new teachers. One reason is also that we have very few Methuen Public Schools employees who we had to lay off at the end of last year, left to recall, that we would like to bring back into the fold. One of those positions would do that, and then the other would give us a little bit of buffer room in order to create that space. We are trying really hard to keep the K2 especially class sizes relatively small for the reasons that you've heard principals bring up in the past about the issues regarding regulation and dysregulation in some what had been grade 1 students last year. So we thought it best to let grade 2 lie where it may, especially because I wasn't sure where the school choice vote was going to fall in terms of option 1 or 2. And we need to allow space for those students as well, which is why the ask would be to add those 2 teachers. So again, not looking for additional funding. We have had, unfortunately, some resignations and some resignations pending from teachers who were relatively high on the salary scale, but shifting that funding into the gen ed classrooms for K. And I do appreciate the idea of shifting within, and something that we're definitely looking at. Marsh had gone down to 3 K teachers this year, which is really kind of small. And so adding a 4th there seems logical too. And Tenney, over the past few years, has been the school we've seen the most mid-year enrollments for students who join us throughout the school year as well. And while I'm at it, I'll just say the other ask there is the formality for the Compass position, which was afforded by the grant that you received earlier in the meeting. That would allow us to formally hire for that position.
Any other questions or discussion? We'll hear from the vice chair and the member bias.
Thank you. Just a quick question though. We haven't, I know we said we're gonna get the updated budget book next meeting. But any of these positions net new, or are they all backfills? Just want to make sure I'm clear on that. These are all backfills, correct?
Well, last time we had came to you, we had removed these teachers from the budget, and so we're asking to put them back in.
And are there people tied to that yet? Like, are we bringing back people, pink slips, ultimately?
We would be bringing, offering to bring back a teacher for K. Same thing with the counseling position. That would domino into a counselor being recalled. And that would leave us with one position that it would be the tech position at the Timony Grammar School, which is would be the only school without a tech person in-house. That we believe we do have a mechanism to bring them back as well, which would mean we'd be proud to say through it all, we were able to bring back all of our staffers who had yet to find employment in other districts. Not to say that we were able to restore all the positions that we lost. So with the addition of these 2 teachers and the counselor, I believe that would put us at still 48 positions that have not been restored from the original cut. And the reason why those don't correspond to people directly is because that has to do with attrition, people moving on, moving throughout the country, retiring, some resignations. and also some vacant positions that we had needed but hadn't been able to fill and weren't filled at the time in the spring when we came up with the budget. So, we've been thoughtful about if we recall everybody that we're able to, will we be able to retain them next year in terms of a tight budget? And I think that the reduction of those 48 positions speaks to us still making a reduction and being smart.
Can I ask one ask in the next update here? Can I get 2024, 2025, 2026, and 2027 staff headcount? Just total. I know there's a lot of cues and questions that would come with that, but there's lower staff jobs on there from a paying scale, retirees on a higher step. I know. I just want to know.
So FTEs,
FTEs.
number of FTEs,
Number of FTEs.
not contracted employees.
No, teachers, all of that would be tied into it. We should have like a total head count
Okay.
of BCBAs, paras, all of it, just the total amount, just grand
Total people.
Total
Okay.
people under staff.
Okay, and
And
so
I
I
will-
will include the, if we're not able to fill a special education role specifically, Ms. Bozak will go out and contract out to fill that position for an FTE role. I will include that because
those two.
had we been able to find them, it would have been one of ours.
And believe me, the questions won't come from me like, oh, look at, there's 100 more teachers here than it was here. That's not where I'm going with this. I just want to know what our staff head count is for those 4 years. Thank you. And the reason for those 4 years is when we were back to full-time in school. Because I know 22, we were off a little year, half of the year. So it would be 23, 24, 25, 26 now. Thank you.
Thank you. So I think the vice chair asked some great questions, and I want to piggyback off of them. Specifically, is there, because I know we voted on specifically protecting the bilingual parent liaison at the high school, and it says in process. I was just wondering if there's a person tied to that. Why, if we voted on it beforehand, why is it still on here?
In process means the person is being hired.
Oh, okay. All right,
Yep,
cool. Thank
yep.
you.
So they're listed as current vacancies below because perhaps it's a matter of finalizing the steps in the hiring process. In process means that there's a candidate in process to being formally in that role. And the others mean that we're still seeking, where it says vacant, we're still seeking someone there.
Thank you for the clarification.
I just have a question for Member DeZoglio. When you ask for FTEs, are you talking about teaching staff like Unit A, Unit B, Unit C, or are you also including nurses, custodians, lunch people? Like, I'm just trying to understand what you're asking.
Full head count.
Okay.
Full head count. Yep.
Thanks.
Maybe if I can just, about the vacant positions. Ms. Bozak, I know you're probably disappointed, we all are, to see again BCBAs, to have those vacancies. Are all of these, the BCBAs, attached to a specific program, or is it a mix?
It's a mix.
Okay. Have you had many applications? Because these are such important positions in our buildings.
We have had applicants. The kind of barrier is the salary.
So what you would have to do is, if these positions aren't filled, to go to contract.
Correct.
Okay, and we know what that costs us.
Correct.
How about the CTEs, especially after our discussion tonight? Is there hope for the 2 positions?
There is hope. We had candidates in process for both. Both of whom opted out. One returned to their previous district, and the other one chose another district. I believe it did come down to salary. As of today, I've seen that we have new applicants in front line for these positions. So we are hopeful.
Are those certifications kind of elite, or I'm not that familiar with it. So
Mm-hmm.
you couldn't do a waiver for those positions, correct? Or could
We could do a waiver as they work toward it.
Okay.
The barrier there is that some candidates might not be willing to do that, or it might be difficult to do that because you need at least 3 years' experience in the field to become certified vocationally. So if they're not able to prove that at the start, while they're hired as a full-time employee for us, seeking that extra experience in whatever setting is pertinent to their field may feel overwhelming. That being said, we do have staff members who are willing to do that and have done that. And we also have some career changers who have worked in a field for 20 plus years and want to switch over. Some of our CTE staff actually were career changers working for us in gen ed classrooms, and then learning about our CTE program through the road shows and whatnot, thought, oh, I'm a match because I have that experience and have shifted over. And that's been great for us. So we do have some exciting candidates that we're trying to move through there, and hopefully they pan out. I will say what truly drives enrollment in our CTE programming is it's largely dependent on the enthusiasm of the teacher and their
We've
ability
seen
to
that.
connect with students.
Certainly saw that.
So we're really hoping to capture a candidate who's able to do that.
Well, thank you. Thank you for those clarifications. And on the bright side, it's good to see we're only looking for one school psych this year.
I believe it's 2 right now.
Oh, I only saw one when I looked. Okay, I'll pretend I just saw
Yeah,
one.
but that's okay.
Okay. Yeah, thank you so much.
I just have a quick request for Dr. Marks. I know we have maintenance staff on our custodial staff that I had thought they were maybe a plumber, one's an electrician. Can you give us a breakdown at the next meeting of who the maintenance staff are? Well, not who they are, but what positions we have in the maintenance staff?
Yes, I will work on a
Okay,
breakdown of
thank
that.
you.
And you're focused in particular on what are some of the specializations and trade skills that they might have?
Licenses or
Yeah,
anything like that?
Okay.
Thank you.
will do.
Any other questions, comments? All right. If not, we will take a vote. All those in favor, this is regarding the staffing request.
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, the ayes have it. Next on the agenda, we have other business from the committee. First up, we have an update on the status of school buildings. This is from the vice chair. I'll pass it off to the administration, and I'm happy to answer questions on my end as well, but I'll pass it off to Dr. Marks.
Sure. I mean, overall, we're in good shape. I'm glad to provide a breakdown by school if that's helpful, or I can field questions if that's more appropriate. But we don't have any major issues that are going to impact the reopening of school on September 2nd. We have some projects that are in process, but we are making headway, and most of the projects in the report that you can see will be completed before the first day of school. And some are associated with long-term projects. So in particular, at CGS, we are nearing the completion of AC upgrades for the entire building to make sure that the inner classrooms all have air circulation and air conditioning. And then as we look at the Marsh Grammar School, we're making considerable progress there. That's one of the schools that I already had a chance to do a walkthrough. And we are going to be, we're in the process of replacing the boilers, and the piping will be going in next, and the chillers will be completed by the end of this week, the piping for the chillers. So in preparation for colder weather. And then we're also working on some roof AC units there, and just waiting on delivery and install. There will be a crane necessary for that, is my understanding. But we have completed the carpeting, installed in all 32 rooms, which was more of an urgent item for the start of school. And then we're in pretty good shape at the high school. We are excited that we have 2 grants through the city, so a Green Communities grant to finish the LED lighting upgrades, as well as a grant to engineer and upgrade the HVAC control system throughout the school year. And then at the Timony, vinyl flooring removal and replacement in 12 rooms, installation of a new pneumatic air compressor. We did some work on the playground as well to install rubber mulch, and LED lighting project has begun there as well. And then collaboration with the DPW on grounds cleanup. And central office, we've been dealing with on and off AC issues over the summer, but that should be resolved soon. And there was a system fixed to just allow the temperature to be working conditions worthy. And then Ditson, we're making good progress on document shredding, and we're reviewing the additional records to make sure that, we're retaining essential records, and then records that are non-essential or that are not historic in nature, that are older than 7 years can be shredded. So that's where we are.
I just want to say thank you for putting this together. I like the way this is put it through. Some of the CIP things that are coming up, I know there was some conversation at the city council meeting about the roofs. Mayor, if you have any updates on roofs, any of them getting done this year, 2020, next fiscal year, I'm just curious on status on roofs.
Sure.
too.
So as I shared with the city council, I'll share this update with the committee as well. So regarding the fiscal year 26 CIP, we got to a place earlier this year in terms of planning for the budget for fiscal year 27, looking at making debt service payments on projects that were designated to be completed through the fiscal year 26 CIP. We determined that in order to reduce our debt service payments, to help alleviate some of the budget challenges we were having, the thinking was that we would carry over many of those projects from the fiscal year 26 CIP to the fiscal year 27 picture here that we're dealing with now. And so those projects, many of them are now underway, namely in the context of road improvements and the like. And so those are beginning in 27, but the debt service payments will not hit until fiscal year 28. So that was the thinking. Now, in doing so, in carrying those projects over, that takes the available amount that we have for our proverbial fiscal year 27 CIP capacity, factoring in the projects that are now coming over into 27. That leaves us with roughly $4 million in terms of available capacity for 27 CIP. And looking at the Timony roof project, that is anticipated to cost in the ballpark of $4 million. And so in terms of looking at the various issues that we need to tackle, we had DPW take a look at the Timony. This was at some point in the past 12 months. Director Bauer was at the building along with Darren, and one of the points made by Director Bauer, who also is an engineer just in terms of his training, his determination was that that building needs a roof, new roof stat, considering all the water damage that he observed. And so it's something that will not impact the opening of school or the safety of students, but it is something that is a deferred maintenance example that we cannot defer any longer than is reasonable for us. And so that's why my thought is using the remaining capacity for a fiscal year 27 CIP. I'm looking at having the project be the Timony roof. So that's just my theory of the case and what we're moving towards so that we can get that big ticket item taken care of before any other damage is done.
Thank you, Mayor. And I know the last thing we want is something like that happened to Tenny when the roof blew off during a storm. What was that, like 3 years ago? Was it something like 4 years ago, maybe? It was a Christmas Eve. Yeah, I should ask the former principal of that one, but
Yeah, it was there.
it was a vacation week, and luckily we were able to get an emergency repair done during the holidays. But that's the last thing I want is hurricane season's supposed to be really strong this year, and I'm really hoping it doesn't come up the East Coast the way that they're talking about it. So I just wanted to put some light on that. But Dr. Marks, thank you for this. I know you've inherited a very large inventory of things. The one last question I have is probably going to be directed to the superintendent. Have we fixed the bleachers in the Timony inside the gymnasium there? I know that's been a pain point for about 6 months.
I did see some paperwork and a quote from a vendor. When we tour there this week, we'll double check to see the status of that. I know there was progress made on it. Definitely a pain point, though.
It's been a pain point.
And I've
yeah.
talked with Dr. Marks about the slippery gym floors too, so he's gonna find a solution for that.
Thank you. All set.
Something else that I want to share an update on, this isn't related specifically to a school building, but I thought I would mention it just in the context of capital upgrades. One of the other facilities that is widely used by our schools, of course, is Nicholson Stadium. The facade, of course, looks terrible, is in desperate need of new paint, but there's other things that we're looking at in terms of capital improvements regarding the stadium that are long overdue, just given limited capacity in the CIP and considering all of the needs within our actual school buildings. It is something that has not been as high as, for instance, a new roof at the Timony, but it is something that I'm actively communicating with Superintendent Steve Angelo from Parks and Rec about, and it is definitely a project that we need to get after over the course of the next several years, but there are various aspects of that I want to move on as soon as possible from a safety but also an aesthetic standpoint. Member Willett?
So I appreciate the update on the Timony School, and we're all collectively concerned, and we know we have confidence in you and the city council, and I think, didn't we obtain a grant recently that's going to be dedicated to the Timony School as well? And also, I just want to emphasize, I know when I was previously on the school committee, we were faced with an emergency because we were walloped by a Buffalo-style multifaceted storm. It was back-to-back storms. And we actually had to get outside crews to tackle the roof of the various grammar schools. So I would emphasize working in conjunction with DPW and our school employees. Whenever there's a storm, after that storm, to send teams up there because of the integrity of the roof, to monitor that. I hate to have something, I'm not saying compromise, I want to allay anyone's fears, but I think we really have to be vigilant about the Timony roof until we get it fully repaired. And then secondly, with the stadium, we do have a policy in place, but this is something that maybe the mayor's office can work with our outside businesses, especially long-standing businesses in Methuen that have been in existence for maybe even a century or more, is that we've had a tradition of winning state titles and also Merrimack Valley Conference titles, and maybe have metallic banners, and in exchange for that, it would be maybe modestly having a corporate sponsor or a local company sponsor. Obviously, we have restrictions about no tobacco, no alcohol, no violence-oriented, no pot dispensaries. But you would have mom-and-pop businesses or someone that might be able to generate revenue to be able to paint the facade, have metallic state championship banner or MVC banners, right? And that would take care of that situation and maybe build up a fund over time. Not, obviously not talking about naming rights, but talking about the facade and having the metallic championship banners. And we have an existing policy, but I think you're taking the leadership on that and the outreach, and maybe having that within maybe a few weeks or a month or so, just maybe in line with football season. It's getting around the corner. Just food for thought on those two items. Thank you. I appreciate the maintenance reports, and obviously, 3 years ago, I recommended the maintenance reports. I think it's in concert with what we've been seeing over the last 3 years, so I appreciate that. Thank you.
Two things. First, I want to make a motion to go extend beyond 9 o'clock.
Motions from Member Keegan, seconds from the Vice Chair to extend past 9 o'clock. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, we'll go past 9.
My second question is, at the city council meeting, you moved the money from the high school boilers to the marsh air exchangers. Can you explain to me and the public what the condition of the high school boilers are, why they were on the CIP, and what condition they currently are in, and are we going to end up looking at an emergency maintenance versus proactive maintenance?
So it's a very good question. To respond to questions asked by, I think, one of the counselors, sort of like a wise guy kind of said, did they fix themselves? I mean, of course not. But this is a question about, I guess, prioritization, right? And the critical need of making these fixes. I'll let the leadership team of the school district to get a little into the specifics of the condition of the water heating system at the high school. Certainly is something that we need to tackle imminently, without a doubt. However, knowing that we have that limited carve-out for the project in the CIP, also realizing what happened at the marsh over the course of the past winter. We were there overnight at the marsh while those buildings, the classrooms, the temperature dropped, and you had this, the pipe issue. In order to avoid that, the determination had been made in conjunction with the administration, namely Mr. Goslin, right at the end of his time with us, that switch really needed to be made to avoid another incident at the marsh. But when it comes to specifics about the condition of the water heater, I'll pass that off to the administration. But it is something that we do have to keep on our radar, and we are going to need to fund it through the next CIP. Whether we can do that in '27, considering the fact that we have the Timony roof, which is, of course, of tremendous concern, as well. This is where everything gets really tricky. We have to prioritize these projects and realize that we certainly don't have an unlimited amount of money going around, but I'll defer to the superintendent to provide an update on the
Thank
system
you. So Mr. Stella has been great about sending me pictures as they're repairing different items. I got pictures of the air handlers this morning. Certainly needed to be replaced, as is the case with most of the equipment that's removed. We do have several projects, or I should say at least a handful of projects in the district that are substantial and I think are of competing need. And so it was recommended by Mr. Stella and Mr. Hernandez to Mr. Goslin that we move and get the air handlers. That being said, one of the plans that we have is to sit down, Dr. Marks, myself, Mr. Stella, Mr. Hernandez, and our second shift facilities director, once he's onboarded, and go through what we see as our needs, CIP-wise, and then schedule a meeting with the mayor, because I think we have some projects that have gotten a lot of airtime, but there's others that we might not be aware of. So the more of us that are in the know about what we foresee the needs as being, we might be more likely to handle them in the future when grants come up, energy saving grants, or the Mass School Building Authority will open in January its grant process for things like roofs, boilers, really costly improvements. And if we don't have our ducks in a row, so to speak, with our application ready for that, that would be another 2 years until it opens again. But we'll maybe be able to make a plan for what we intend to tackle. That being said, because we do have the competing needs and priorities, I do anticipate that at some point there will be a situation that's emergent that we need to deal with right away. We're fortunate to have some people on our staff that know the history of some of the antiquated systems and are able to get us through, almost like with what happened with the air at Branch Street this summer. Our ESY program is very, very warm. That system is only 20 or 25 years old, which is significant, not our oldest system in the district, but when we did inherit that building, it was an older system, or purchased the building. So we were able to get through the summer, and now that will be something that needs to add on to our plans moving forward. So long story short, we're eager to go through that internally, share with the mayor, and then bring to you what we foresee as being our major needs.
Thank you.
Member Baez?
Thank you. I was going to inquire about the Mass School Building Authority, so thank you for that. As you know, it's pretty important. One is the roofs, windows, those sort of, and obviously the other type of grants that I'm sure we're not inquiring about. But the other thing is to you, Mr. Mayor, about the solar panels that were approved and any updates on that.
No updates as of yet. That is all moving forward, and we are able to take advantage of the benefits associated with the timeline as it relates to credits and the like. But what I could do is get the timeline regarding next steps, especially as we look at the start of school, obviously right around the corner, having perhaps an update directly from Select. I think that would be helpful at the next meeting, and we can maybe actually engage with them directly now that everything is on board and we're past that point of trying to get it all approved within a certain time period. So that's something that we could certainly organize.
Perfect. That sounds great.
Great. Any other comments, questions? Next, we have a request from Member Keegan to discuss parents delivering lunch to students in school.
So we heard tonight a parent very concerned about a new policy that was put in place at the high school. I wanted to understand from the administration the history of this policy. I went looking for it. I didn't see it in the handbook. I didn't see it in our policies. So I'm wondering where it lives, if it's district-wide, and what exactly the policy is, so that it's super clear as to what we're hearing, I guess. Thank you.
Sure. In this setting, I'm not able to speak to specific instances or students, of course, but I can speak to what you addressed there. So in the handbook, it does stipulate that food deliveries, per se, are not allowed during the school day. The history behind that is when DoorDash and the like came on the scene, became popular with students. I was working at the high school when that happened, and that was really hard. We were having people we were unfamiliar with dropping at various doors, which is against what we're trying to do safety-wise and streamlining that. And so we were concerned about that. Also, we found, and I had been at the high school for a while, so I can speak to this, when food is delivered, especially when it's food that is popular among student groups during the school day, it can be disruptive in terms of a student being called out of class to come down to retrieve the food item, the student bringing a food item back to class, causing students to be, oh, where'd you get that? I wish I had some of those items. That's one of the things that we're trying to stay focused on the teaching and learning of it all. never mind how students are requesting those food items from outside the school during the day, whether they're texting or emailing or communicating that way. Certainly, students that have food restrictions or needs that might exceed what we provide during lunch or what had been packed for them or by them to bring to school that morning. Certainly, we are obligated and happy to meet those needs. Typically, the students with those types of needs go to the nurse's office and access food that they have that is stored there, or may make a request to a family from there. I think, I'm not sure of specific instances, but on the whole, what we're trying to do is maintain the order and focus on learning in a relatively large high school with a lot of moving pieces. In that when we have had in the past, from what I have observed, even a delivery that's intended to be during the lunchtime. The lunchtime is relatively short in terms of coming and going, and it could preclude a student for having the time to eat and whatnot. So I think on the whole, the idea of the no food delivery and bagged lunches and buy lunch is a smart idea. Of course, in the instance that a student forgets their lunch at home and hasn't no access to the food that they're desiring, we might be able to, the parent could leave that in the office and we could get that to the student. But again, if there are individual concerns about things like that, I haven't heard of any other instances, but we can work with families on that, and certainly if it's a medical need, the nurse would be the appropriate route there. We're not trying to prevent anyone from having access to nutrition that they need.
We need order during the meeting. Excuse me. Dr. Globsky?
We're not trying to prevent anyone from having what they need during the school day. And, you know, as I've already said, nurses are happy to be the liaison to get those nutrients or whatnot. But we are trying to maintain order and focus on learning to the degree possible.
Great, thank you.
Other questions or comments, Member Bias?
So just for context reasons, this policy per se, or guidelines, whatever's in the handbook, it never passed through the school committee in the past. It was just something that came up, needed to deal with it, and happened. And sorry, so the second part of that is this something that the school committee or the policy subcommittee should look at in terms of creating a policy, and then the guidelines would go into the handbook?
So it's called policy because it's in the handbook, and once the handbook is voted on by the school committee, it becomes policy. And so I believe last year there were no recommended changes to the handbooks. We are holding steady. So this must have been, I don't know when it was added, but it wasn't a new ad midstream without the approval of the school committee. It was a standing item in the handbook. So again, when we bring the handbooks to you for approval, that's something that could be discussed by the committee and amended as you see fit. And that the handbook item is actually one of those items that traditionally has been brought in August prior to the start of the school year. Best practice is that we have that brought in the springtime, and that we already have the handbooks worked out so that we're able to send those out to families even earlier in the year and have the sign-ups earlier. So when I was making the school committee standing items and special items, that's something that I flagged for next year to have that out earlier. But we have yet to bring to you the handbooks for this year, at which point, just like with the program of studies, if you recall, when we bring that forward, you're able to give your input and approve that's where that would happen.
Right, thank you. And I was just looking for that
Yeah.
context since
Yeah.
I haven't voted on a handbook because of being new to the committee. So I just wanted to make sure that there was a process for oversight
Yes.
of that.
Yeah.
And
So,
Mr. Chair.
So I gotta be frank, you know, if someone requires something, one, I would assume that it would be going with them. If it's forgotten, I would assume someone would drop it off for them. So, you know, I get the whole Quiznos, DoorDash, all that. But if I'm a parent, I'm packing up my lunch and breakfast in the morning and sending it with my child. If they forgot it, I should be able to come and drop it off. They should have what they need for the day, regardless of policy or not. Because I have walked in the high school and I see the extra large Dunkin' Donuts coffees and stuff like that. I don't recall seeing anything in the handbook on any of the food or drinks. And I think I made a comment about that last year, that I think we need to start, because I'm seeing kids just walking around with the jumbo ices and the coffees, and it's just, it's becoming a thing here. And I know back in the day when I was in the high school, I would leave at block 5 to go get coffee and come back. As a senior, I remember doing it. But if we're gonna make policy around this, then sure, let's do it. But just so everyone knows, each building has the authority, the building principals have the authority to do building-specific policies for their administration. That does not have to go through us, exactly. So if tomorrow Mr. Corrett says no coffee allowed in the high school, he can do that, just so everyone knows. And if you want to put a building policy to that by administration, because it's becoming a pandemic or whatever inside the school, that there's coffee coming in and everyone's just bringing it in, they have the authority to do that. If you want to make it by the book and put it in the handbook that no coffee is allowed, that includes teachers and outside student populations. And it's either bringing in a thermos or something like that. But what I'm getting at is if you do it for one thing, you're going to have to do it for all. So certain things I agree that the buildings have the authority of doing to a certain point. If you want to make a policy that makes this, then feel free, bring it up. But I ultimately agree that this should fall within the schools. And if a parent is dropping off something, I would think the humane thing would be to give it to the student. I think this might be something that we can have a behind the scenes conversation if there's one or two incidents out there. But to make this a bigger thing is going to try angulate this into a more than one building situation. It will be all 4 schools plus the high school. So I'm just putting that out there. If it's not broken, don't fix it. If there's an incident, work on the incident, not the overall situation. Thank you.
Any other comments, questions?
I'm trying to just like recap here. I know this is the feedback to the superintendent. I know it's going to go back to the school administration. I just want to make sure, just to clarify, and I'm using a hypothetical situation. If it's someone is designated as part of their IEP, whether it be the cell phone coverage or a special diet, or another extension might be religious diets, and there's a special process for that they have to go through a special religious diet, and making sure we accommodate that population. I have a strong suspicion that they will work on these issues. But if it comes back to the school committee, then it's something that the school administration was not able to resolve, and then it boomerangs back to us. So I think the feedback has been given to the superintendent. I think the vice chair makes some valid points. I'm concerned also in the greater universe of these macro issues is that we have uniformity of standards within our school system in terms of holiday practices and parties and bringing food into schools and recreational items that we have a uniformity of standards so that we don't have individual fiefdoms, because ultimately, this is an elected body here, and we will receive the feedback from the parents and the grandparents and the taxpayers and sometimes even the students. And they will come to the podium, or they'll send emails to us, or they'll make calls to us. And I'm noticing, again, I don't want to cast aspersions, but I'm very concerned about the uniformity of standards across our schools. And as people go off the reservation, I perceived it with the holidays, and I think they were going against the mindset of the parents. I think it might be in terms of bringing food into students. And I understand the mindset of having restrictions of DoorDash. I totally understand that. But then also common sense on recreational sports, that these kids should have an opportunity to play at certain schools. So I'm just hopeful that I'm not going to continue to have these conversations going forward. This was constructive, but again, I hope that the individual principals practice uniformity of standards and communicate to one another. And by extension, they communicate to the superintendent and the elected school committee, because we receive the feedback ultimately. So I just wanted to add that to the equation. Thank you.
Member Baez?
Yeah, I just wanted to quickly add to Member Willett's point about uniformity. The Wellness Committee has met twice now to work on the subsequent guidelines to the wellness program, or policy ADF, that was passed in the spring. We've made significant progress on that and hopeful to bring that to the full committee for approval in the next coming meetings. To that is guidelines for foods, fundraisers in terms of foods and events that could be done with foods. And there are guidelines that now the uniformity part of it is that the administrators approving these items will need to stick to some guidelines in the policy, in the procedures. So stay tuned for that.
Any other questions or comments? If not, we'll move on to Member Baez's request regarding an option for parents or guardians to share contact information with classmates' parents or guardians.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor, through you. So I will not pretend like this is a new idea. This has been advocated for by other members in the past. Member Keegan is one. And this was brought to my attention by some of our CPAC leaders on the fact that they've been advocating for this for a long time. So I just wanted to put it on the agenda so that the administration can have a chance to speak on their progress on it. I also wanted to say that this is an opportunity, if done and done right, so that not only can parents, guardians interact and engage with each other, but that could perhaps boomerang back on us for engagement to the school district in general. Again, that depends on how you define engagement, right? But I think it's a great opportunity to upgrade the way we do things. That's all. Thank you. And defer to the superintendent for updates on that.
No, I'll listen for the update and the question.
Thank you. Yes, this ask was made, and I completely understand the reasons why. Last year, we had been investigating. I checked in with some neighboring districts about how they manage this, because we're being sensitive about the sharing of contact information, because just as we do have a number of parents who are very willing and eager to interact with the parents of their children's classmates, we have others who are less eager, and we have heard, we had Nancy Lopez, our director of technology, put it out on the listserv to see how other districts are doing it, and many tech directors replied that it became troublesome because parents weren't fully aware of what they were signing up for and didn't want people to have their contact information. So we have decided to go with a more classic approach instead of using the apps. which might create another responsibility for teachers that in terms of managing or updating contact information as it changes. I've discussed with Ms. Bozak and Ms. Prietti leveraging the open house dates or putting out an ask for parents if they wish to add their name, phone number for text or call, and or email, and they're just simply compiling the list and just asking the teacher to share that list with the parties who are willing to participate. So for now, we're not going to go with an app that's managed by the school, but just simple good old-fashioned list to get the information out there for those that are interested.
Thank you.
Thank you. Could we use the portal, Infinite Campus? I have a feeling, I remember back in the day when I was playing in it at Suffolk, we would have the ability to connect with other students. 90% of the time, it's parents in there. Couldn't we potentially, as a safe haven, be able to communicate through there with parents? Especially at least for announcements, or like if they're asking for play dates, just get a text message going on a thread. But if you're looking at getting student engagement with the school, I would assume Infinite Campus would be an easier solution.
That didn't come up in the discussions with technology. I think the real request was just for that, play dates and providing opportunities for students to connect among each other first. And I think Member Baez was suggesting that could lead to bigger things for us too. I heard Class Dojo has a nice option for that, but again, that's not a messaging platform that is provided by the district, and we didn't want parents to veer more toward that when interacting with the schools than talking points because of the translation features. So we didn't want to send mixed messages and add another app into the realm.
Thank you.
If you can refresh my memory, I remember Member Keegan leading this discussion last year. And did we have a pilot program that got started with a couple of the kindergarten? Help me remember this.
It was
please.
supposed to, we did not.
Okay. Okay. So how is it going to be, what will be in place this year?
So we first need to communicate this to the teachers, and we'll also update you on that. But
Okay.
we're having an offering for parents who wish to opt in to this classroom contact list, making it
Google. Is it
not always. We're going to start with open house when parents attend, but certainly not everyone will make it. So we want also for them to have that opportunity.
And what grades will this be? I'm sorry if I missed some of this, but I vividly remember a discussion.
We
last
had
year.
the idea started with sub-separate classrooms and
That's
special
what it was,
education, but really it's good practice, we think, maybe for all lower school students.
Okay.
I think that is a desire of some, and so for those willing to participate, then they will be shared the group's contact information. Very simple. Phone number, do you prefer call or text? Email.
Okay. And I'm sure you'll update us on how this goes.
Yes, I mean, I think once we collect the information from the willing parties and disperse it, it's really up to the parents as to how often they leverage it.
I do want to make sure that this will happen at the high school sub-separates. I mean, I know that my son right now has a fantastic teacher who does it for us because, I mean, my son is 16 years old and was invited to his first birthday party this year because of the teacher, because there's no communication. And so I know that I'm not the only one at the high school that my kid doesn't have any friends. So we have to do it for the sub-separates at the high school because it's amazing to watch these kids go bowling together. And so I really want to push that it can't just be for the elementary schools. I know that the high school kids, most kids can talk and share information and share their text, but the sub-separate kids just can't. And so I really want to push that those kids get that information. Thanks.
Other questions or comments? If not, we'll move on to Member Donovan has a request for an update regarding the possible local impact of the President's executive order on vaccinations.
And very simply, I'm asking just for a little direction. I did hear from a few parents who, after hearing about the executive order from President Trump about changing the numbers and the procedures, how is that going to impact our students in our schools? And I know we have the state piece, which is separate, which oversees our vaccination policies. But I just want to make sure we don't have any confusion or misunderstanding as we enter a new school year. And how are we going to be dealing with that? It's been all over the news.
So we checked in with our nurse leader, Jen Sawyer, who provided some information to Ms. Bozek. Ms. Bozek, if you wanted to share.
Yes, so Ms. Sawyer shared with us that the information that's currently available on the mass.gov website, it appears right now that the requirements have not changed at this time. Our state nurse directors have not received any information at this time regarding how or when any potential changes will be implemented. The vaccines in question are typically administered between 1 month and 5 years of age, so we anticipate that any changes may apply to children within that age range. However, none of that's been confirmed yet. The next required vaccines are administered prior to entering 7th grade, where there's 2 vaccines required at that time, and then 1 additional vaccine at age 16. So Ms. Sawyer is going to continue to monitor for any official updates, and then we'll share out that information as it becomes available.
Member Baez?
I just want to thank Secretary Donovan for bringing this to the table, as I think it is an important discussion because there could be impacts. I did see somewhere that the governor responded with declining the federal government's changes, which I'm personally happy to see. But I think it's important to have these conversations proactively. So I'm grateful for that. And I also wanted to bring to the attention to the administration the potential of daylight savings being permanent, and perhaps another item on the future agenda is seeing if that would impact us, and starting times and snow and all those. I think obviously hasn't been passed or anything like that, but could potentially impact us.
Any other questions, comments? If not, at this point, we're going to ultimately adjourn our public session and enter executive session pursuant to Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 30A, Section 21A3, to discuss strategy with respect to collective bargaining or litigation if an open meeting may have a detrimental effect on the bargaining or litigating position of the public body, and the chair so declares. This is regarding the Methuen Education Association versus Methuen School Committee situation. We will not reconvene after the executive session and open session, so what we'll do is I'll entertain a motion and a second to adjourn the public part of our meeting and enter executive session.
Second.
Motions from the vice chair, seconds from member Soroyce. We'll take a roll call vote on adjourning the public session and entering executive session.
Vice Chair DeZaglia?
Yes.
Member Grassi, yes. Member Baez?
Yes.
Yes.
McCarthy Royce?
Yes.
Member Willett?
Yes.
Mayor Beauregard?
Yes. So the time is 9:26 PM. Our public meeting is adjourned, and we'll now enter executive session, and we will not reconvene into open session after the executive session ends.